Welcome to the World Wide Web. This is the From the W podcast. This is episode 2, folks. Welcome in. I hope you guys are having a great and fantastic evening. It's Draft Thursday. We're aware of this. At least I was sort of aware. So I've got orange. Because I'm a Browns fan. So yeah, you can feel sorry for me. I feel sorry for myself every day. Welcome in. We'll get this thing started. How about that? Oh, the music wasn't even on this entire time. What a show. What a show. I thought the music was playing this entire time. It was playing in my ears. Hey, let's get this thing going. Welcome in, Chris. How you doing, man? Welcome back.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Is that loud? It seems loud. Is that just me? It sounded good. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's good. Should be good.
You know what they say about the color orange, right?
Yeah. It's light brown.
It's the color of caution.
Well,
stay away.
I should have stayed away years ago, and instead I've stayed a loyal Browns fan. And
I think the best thing you could do is just move your camera slightly to your right and just nix that whole entire color altogether.
Yeah, you think so?
Right.
Like if I here, let me change it. You think, yeah, the whole podcast would have this like way better probably feel to it. What do you think?
You know where I reside, who my team is?
I'll just make it even more orange. How about that? Look, I'll just make myself orange too.
You might end the podcast if I tell you who I root for.
Are you a Steelers fan? Come on now.
Close.
Oh, okay. Where you at?
Baltimore.
Baltimore, man, that's probably worse. Honestly, that's probably worse. How you doing today, Chris?
Good. Yeah, watching a little bit of the draft right now. The Saints just took their first pick with 11 picks through and no quarterbacks.
Really?
Wow, really? 11 picks?
A quarterback.
Wow.
Yep.
Holy cow. That's amazing. That's
3
wild,
receivers
yeah.
Though.
I don't think it's got to be the first time in a long time where the first 11 picks. I don't know if that's ever happened where a quarterback doesn't get drafted.
Yeah, were the first 2 picks linemen?
Defensive lineman and a corner.
That's wild.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's been pretty consistent. It's 2 defensive linemen, 3 offensive tackles, 2 corners, and 3 wide receivers.
Sheesh.
Wow. All right, new to the show this week, Mr. Joey Jr. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Blessed to
Hope
be
you're having
man.
a good day. Yeah, man.
It's been a good day. It's been a good day.
Good. I'm glad, man. So here's what we do. For an introduction, quick. Who are you? Which we've already kind of established that. Mm-hmm. So who are you? What you're doing in the content space, and what your goals are and stuff, I guess. And moving forward.
It's I think it's pretty easy to understand who I am. My name is pretty clear. I go by Joey or Joe, whatever you want to call me. Honestly, I've been a gamer for a very, very, very long time. Probably ever since. My first device was, I think a regular Nintendo.
Nice.
Game Boy. Play Contra, growing up to Sega. I'm a PlayStation guy at heart. I don't like Xbox, but so I just, I've been a gamer my entire life. And through some trials and stuff in life and just living, I was saved in 2012. I met Jesus through something that was obviously meant to happen. But back then looking at it, not really understanding why that happened. And then just felt a conviction after walking with him for a few years to take my desire of gaming. And because I loved watching Twitch and I love watching creators and stuff like that, I was very interested in it to then come into the gaming platform and use that to talk to people about God and faith Absolutely. In general. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm even talking to you guys right now. And then one thing leads to another, and then just a group of people get together and we carry on and just try to do, what he has planned for us. So
Yeah. Amen.
yeah.
Yeah, I know you've got a pretty cool testimony. If anybody's interested in hearing, check out Joey on Twitch here. He's the name that he's got right there on the screen, twitch.tv, almost said .com.
It's been a while since you've been
I'm not
on.
used to that. It's been a while. It's been a while, but it's all right. It's all good. Yeah, so um okay, I'm trying to do something here. Okay, I figured it out. Boom. Ha. See, I know what I'm doing. Okay.
What were you trying to do?
I was just trying to change the title at the bottom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I listen, I'm trying to make it like really perfect and fluid and like very professional. And I'm like, I've done this before. Why can I not figure out how to do it again? And I did it again. So
Right.
yeah. We're moving on. We got this. Cool. Well, it's good to have you here, Joey. Appreciate you, man. Yeah. So we've got the NFL draft tonight. So Joey, are you also a big NFL fan, college football fan?
I love sports. That's
Yeah.
probably my that's probably the one thing other than gaming that I would put side. Like I just love it. Like when I go to bed every night, I don't care if I don't care if it's a team from Yugoslavia in like 480p because they're so far away and it just the Hulu doesn't match right. You know what I mean? It's like a like you know what I'm talking about, like a third world type of thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm watching it. I don't care if it's cricket. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
I'm just being honest. Like that I tell my wife, why do we even have these subscriptions? Like you don't watch nothing and I watch one channel. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. So
yeah. I know
love
for me,
sports.
there was one time me and my dad, we were on a like a business trip or whatever, and we stayed at a hotel. And at the hotel, this is like 2 a.m. finally. We're watching, I forget what we we're watching, maybe basketball or something, but we just kept watching sports. Sports kept coming up. And suddenly it was on like kickboxing. I've never watched kickboxing a day in my life. But that was really entertaining, and I don't think it was because it was 2 a.m. I think it was because I was generally like I'm genuinely I enjoy sports, and so just watching something I'd never watched before, like seeing two guys that I've never seen before, like dueling it out and trying to pick like who do I think is gonna win this thing. I have no idea how scoring went. I don't know. I don't remember who won. I don't care really, but it
Right.
was fun to watch. It was just it's sports, man, and competition, and I think that's why I like FPS is more than like first player games, you know, or not first play, like single player games and stuff. Like, just that's where I'm at. I like the competition against real people because like even in Fortnite they've got all the AIs now, and it's like that just doesn't feel as fun. I want to eliminate real people, send real kids back to the lobby, you know.
Right. I you know what's funny you say that because I think the first time I played Fortnite was with you that one Sunday when I was I mean I might have shot with my son like maybe for 5 minutes, but we actually played some games. And then I realized these people are really easy to kill. And I had a new account and I didn't know and I didn't realize that there's actual AIs for the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
like 15 levels and I'm like
yeah.
this is what it's come down to is that they hook
So
you they do that on purpose to hook you to think you're really good and I'm over here as a grown man trying man I got 20 kills never got shot one time.
didn't even have to use my heels.
Right.
Yeah, there was one of the recent seasons they had where like when you started up Fortnite for the first time in that season, it was really like hype, and they actually jumped you out of the battle bus and like all this stuff. It was really neat. And then like all at once, you're actually controlling the guy while the music's blasting. You're controlling him while he's diving down. It was super cool, super well done. But that first lobby that you played in was 100% AIs who were awful because I've never played keyboard and mouse a day in my life in
Right.
Fortnite until that day. And I won that match on mouse and keyboard. It was so bad. That's how
Wow.
bad they were. I was
Yeah.
like, this feels kind of wrong. Like they're basically like, listen, it's your first game on for the new season. You'll get a W. It's okay.
Right.
But I mean, it was, you know, it is what it is.
Right.
It is.
I got
what
a
it is.
question being new here.
Yeah.
So can you do me a favor just real quick for like, you know, maybe quickly give me a quick I guess like overview of like the heart behind like the channel and stuff like that. I mean, obviously with like the topic on the bottom, it says Misfits and God's Glory, and obviously, like where'd you come up with the name? That's a really cool name, by the way. And like what's the purpose moving forward? And I guess what's the long-term goal, if you will? I'm curious about that. No, even though
Yes. So, um, actually, from the W was something I threw out there, and then I think Chris was like, "What about from the?" I think it was in. You had a couple like a list of names or something like that one time. I'm like, from the W, and I just ignored them at first. Not ignored them, but I was like, I don't like these, and sorry, just being honest. And then later on, I think I heard it was a song by KB
KB?
called I
Yeah.
Believe. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
goes, and in the song, he's like, we don't fight from the W. Or no, he goes, we don't fight for the W, we fight from the W. And I'm
Okay.
like, that's so good. So that's where that kind of came from. But then it also was like, it's incorporated into gaming because I mean, like W,
Mhm.
like that's a term that like a lot of people in gaming use, whether that's something on Twitter or that's something, even if you win the match, like, hey, W, like that's just it's in gaming, and I mean, you know that,
Right.
and so that's kind of where that came from. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a good like we fight from the W. We've
Mhm.
already won, and we're out here, moving
I
from
know.
there. Um, that yeah, so that's where the name came from, and the idea was just Jesus and gaming because I think there's a lot of us that um are Christians in the gaming space, and I feel like we need a place that things can be talked about that are these real conversations of gaming is such a dark place, man. I don't know if you get that feeling, but I get this feeling it's such a dark place, and we are all kind of being our own light in a way in the gaming space. And I'm like, what happens if everybody just comes together and actually talks about the things that need to be talked about rather than you making a YouTube video and I make a YouTube video and so makes a YouTube video and another guy, everybody talking about their own views on things. How about we come together, talk about them, have open conversation and open discussion about Jesus and gaming and how that can look with a bunch of people doing it. Then also the other idea too was like we have to change the podcast game somehow. And I had
Right.
two examples of that, which rather than having a podcast with a host and a guest and just hanging out, I'm like, what if like 10 people are together having a good time hanging out? So there was this idea of like having a round table, really.
Mhm.
And then the other part of that too was like, well, so okay, the streamer Mizkiff, he has an open door policy with his streams, right?
Right.
He
Yep.
has a door in the background, and as random people just walk in, and that's entertaining.
Right.
And I'm like, how can you do that digitally? Like, well, if you do it in a podcast, how would that work in a podcast? People come in whenever they want.
Mhm.
Listen, if you're streaming till 10, but the podcast starts at 9, finish your stream at 10 and then pop into the podcast and then pop into the podcast at 10. Like yeah, like
So like
that's
from
where
what
I'm
like
at with that.
on that topic, when you say anybody can pop in, like let's say for instance we had a viewer that came in, right, and
A
they
pr-
were
a,
engaging in conversation, and then they were like, "Hey, can I join you guys? Do you just or is
no,
it
I
like
think it's more like I would say like actual creators and stuff.
right that you have connections with, right, that you've talked to before, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like are
yeah.
part of the Discord, and that are like kind
Yeah.
of like okay, yeah, like a not like it's more like a not a panel, but you know what I mean, like people
Yeah.
that you've had connections
Round.
with before, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
'Cause I know there's some good content creators out there that are they're not Christians, but they have this type of podcast, and it does very well because
mhm.
there's 10
Well,
people on it, like you said.
yeah, yeah, train wreck. That's where I
That's what I
got
was
like
thinking
that
of.
idea. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it was between then. That's where the idea started from. Was like, okay, that'd be cool to have a bunch of people at one time. And then I was like, well, what happens if is that my computer that's
No, not
dropping
at
you
all.
guys' signal?
Not at
Oh,
all.
okay,
I
okay.
have a young boy, and I just want to attend to him for one
Oh,
second.
you're fine. You're fine.
Yep, yep.
So like the way he was doing it, I actually really enjoyed that. when you have a bunch of different people talking at the same time, super great in my opinion. I loved that. And then I'm like, but other people are already doing that. And then I was like, how can you make it different? And like I said, another thing that I really enjoyed from watching big time streamers was that open door policy. And I'm like, well, how do you do that? Like, how can I incorporate that? Is where I first thought of it. And I'm like, well, the only person that ever walks in is my son. Like, that's entertaining, but at the same time, like, if that's the only person that ever shows up with an open door policy, like, yeah, that's fun, but you need other people. And here's the deal. I moved like a couple years ago, I moved like an hour and a half away from like all my family. So like I'd have to like convince my in-laws to come over and like be here for a little while. You know, like
Right,
it's
right.
like it's gonna be kind of hard, you know. um, but I just thought like how can you create an open door policy to a round table discussion? And so I I don't know, I'm just putting a bunch of ideas together is
Yeah,
where
and
I'm
you
at. Like,
and I think you've done a really good job, from starting from the ground up and just honestly, sometimes you just got to trust that God is obviously leading you, and oftentimes we can get in our own way, right? Like he'll
yeah,
give us something
absolutely.
to do, and he'll convict us and say this is where you need to go, and it makes me think of like like Abraham with like obedience and stuff of like sometimes you just got to go, and you don't know where the end destination is, but he
Yeah.
promises, hey, this is where I'm going to take you. I'm going to bless you during the time. It's going to be hard, you know what I mean? It's probably going to have some kinks in it, but we just be obedient to what he convicts us to do, and
Yeah.
we're guaranteed because we're like you said, it's a W already. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's kind of where the channel's at. The first so the episode 1 was great. I actually like so like I've listened to it and so where I work from where I live is an hour and a half. It was a 3-hour podcast. It was perfect to and from work. Like it was awesome. I listened to the whole thing over again. And I was like, I was even there. I've heard this entire conversation already, and I was still entertained to it. And I was like, I'm like, this is awesome. Like that was super encouraging to me. But the one thing I noticed was that we talked about like everything except God. And I'm like, we got to talk about God at some point. If we're gonna say if this thing's about Jesus and gaming, we got to talk about Jesus and probably some
right.
gaming. So that's kind of where I'm at, like trying to bring things back to Jesus in some way. Not everything has to be. I mean, we talked about Amaranth, and I don't know how you bring that back to Jesus, but
Oh Lord.
I'm just saying that was a discussion at one point. So,
Yeah.
you know, um, but yeah. Anyway, so the draft is tonight, and I know nothing about college football. Um, I am an Ohio State fan. I see on NFL.com that 2 Ohio State wide receivers were drafted in a row, which
Back to
Back to
back.
back.
back to
Yep.
back,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
Jets and then
which
the
is pretty cool.
Saints.
Yeah, dude, the Saints draft like the team Ohio State some years it feels like the Saints are like, "Oh, you went to Ohio State, we'll take you."
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they draft. They do some weird things.
But it seems like a lot of Ohio State players go to New Orleans. Is
Yeah,
that
but and this is just kind of the common theme for Ohio State. They seldom actually do anything good. If you're from Ohio State, there's a strong chance you're going to suck in the NFL.
Yeah, I've noticed that. As an Ohio State fan,
it's
as an
hard to
Ohio State
argue.
fan, I'm like, we'll win national championships. At least they've been decent at least. The last few years has been a little frustrating, but I haven't followed college football this last year hardly.
Yeah.
But I know they try to win a national title rather than, hey, let's grow these boys for the future, which can harm them. It can help you and harm you, but the Saints are pretty decent most years, right? They draft a lot of Ohio State guys, it feels like.
Yeah, but if you look at most of the guys who succeed and win with them, they tend to be 3rd to 6th round guys. Like you look at some of the top wide receivers for the Saints over the last decade, probably 2 decades, and they've been anywhere from non-drafted to 3rd round.
Hmm.
They're not taking 1st round guys and winning with them. And so I think you see it with a lot of teams, like even the Cardinals. The Cardinals, some of the best players for the Cardinals are mid-tier draft picks. You look at Tyrann
Right.
Mathieu. They picked him up in the 3rd round. So I think a lot of the NFL has become about the flashy first and second round, but really the third through the sixth determines the future of your team because everything else from there is just a guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and those guys, a lot of times you see guys like that that come out of those third through fourth rounds are a lot of times some of your best players, and it's pretty crazy to see that sometimes. Yeah, just
Or
thinking.
you look at some of the guys who went undrafted or seventh round or sixth round, like
Yeah,
that's growing in the NFL. Like there's probably, and I don't know if this is a real stat, but it feels like there are more guys currently in the NFL on 53-man rosters that have been fifth round to undrafted. I think
yep.
this feels like there's more of those than ever before. And I think
Hmm.
it's that, a lot of it is the NFL is getting a little bit better at, drafting in those later rounds, but also I think those guys are doing a better job of learning how to represent themselves their like senior year, right? So their last year of college, they're going as soon as it's over. They're training with pro guys. They're training athletically and to get fit, and they're doing all the things right that the first 3 round guys aren't doing. And so then they're undrafted and they come in, they're doing the work. They're putting in all the work that other guys
Yeah,
aren't doing, and then they're making teams.
yeah, yeah. So then they're outperforming those guys when it comes pro day or professionals. Sunday when it comes Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. I mean, I was right when I was thinking this, but like Dearness Johnson, I don't know if you guys saw him. His Browns debut was either last season or the season before. I mean, we we had quarterback was out and both of our running backs are out. He's our third string running back, undrafted guy, and goes up for like 120 yards or something. And like when you watch this guy play for the Browns, like he looks like he should have been drafted first round. He looks like he should have been out there all season for the Browns. Luckily, the Browns have two other running backs that are two of the best in the entire NFL. And this guy, Dearness Johnson, comes out, and I'm like, okay, listen, we don't need 3 running backs that are the best in the NFL. We just need 2. Like, trade this guy somewhere, trade him. But like, you look back, it's like he was undrafted, and I guess he was like after he was undrafted, he went and was like some kind of like crab fisherman or something for like a year, and then started working his butt off again, and now he's in the NFL again. So
Well,
I
got
heard
his
so
I
shot.
heard my phone go off in the background. I went and got it, and it's so funny that we're on this topic like of sports because I got a text message from my uncle that lives in nowhere near me, and I haven't talked to him in a while, and his text message says, "Hey, I hope all is well. I have 2 skybox tickets available for this Sunday's Orioles game versus the Red Sox. Let me know if you want them." And I was like, that's the
Nice.
randomest thing as we're talking about the draft, and I get a text message at 10 o'clock at night. I haven't talked to him in 2 years, and it's about skybox tickets. So
so so if you look at some of the players that went undrafted that were in the top 100 last year, so you got Shaquille Barrett, Bucks Super Bowl winner. You got
Yeah.
Austin Eckler from the Chargers, was a stud. Justin Tucker, kicker, but still undrafted and one of the greatest kickers in NFL history.
Yeah.
Now you get a couple wide receivers. You get Adam Thielen, you get Cole Beasley, you get Robbie Anderson. These guys are all undrafted. You got Chris Harris,
Undrafted.
the Chargers cornerback. He's been a stud. Now you get a couple offensive linemen, Alejandro Villanueva from the Ravens, and you get David Andrews from the Patriots. You get Anthony Harris from the Eagles safety. And these are all guys who were in 2020, 2021, they were considered top 100 players. And I mean, that's 10% of that list that is undrafted just right there.
right.
Wow.
And it's impressive. And again, if you go 6th, 7th round and drafted, like these guys are coming in, they're putting in work. And I think, because on a Christian podcast, they kind of tie it in biblically is like, I think you've got those, you've got those examples of just flashiness and it immediately stands out as first thing you see. But at the end of the day, everything comes down to the work you put in.
Mm.
And I think whether that's your faith, whether that's, playing a position in football, whatever it is, at the end of the day, the best way to give yourself the fairest chance in life is to put in the work. If that's your relationship with God, if that's your relationship with the the owner of the Baltimore Ravens, whatever it may be, you put in the work, you're gonna reap the fruits of that labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's 100% true. I mean let's be honest. Being a Christian and coming back to like the faith talk about this whole thing is like being a Christian. I don't care what anybody says. You can cancel me if you want. There's a lot of work that's involved, right? Not
Oh,
not
yeah.
that we are the ones that did the work that made it necessary for us to have, that relationship, but the fact that our everyday walk when we get up in the morning, like a lot of people think when they see a lot of, I want to say, people that are of the world or people that don't believe in Jesus, when they think or see Christ or a Christian, they just think it's like this cakewalk that is like, you get up and you're just full of joy and you're full of peace and you don't do anything wrong. And it's like, hold on. I'm a complete mess. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just as much of a mess as you are. But we have the tool.
Although,
Go ahead.
Although, do you ever have those days though where you have like nothing on your plate and you just wake up in the best mood ever and like you don't even care?
Oh,
Like
100%.
yeah, yeah, you're just like, bro, today's the best day ever. And like it's like that whole perfect thing you talk. It's rainbows
Right.
and
Well, the beautiful
butterflies,
thing about
man.
it is like on like like wrapping up what I was saying, like even in those moments, the beauty of it all is even in those moments when you feel like you got to work hard and you're not having like one of the best days, there is a sense of peace, that like a supernatural peace that you have, knowing that regardless of what's going on right here in front of me right now, that everything's good and everything's going to
Yeah,
be okay. And
yeah,
like my man said, you do have to get up in the morning, and you do have to, regardless of what your craft is, what your gift is, whether it's football, you know hockey, teacher, whatever the case may be, and to be the best version of yourself, there is work that is involved. And I think like with the draft and stuff like that, we are seeing just a small amount of that's just a small percentage of the the gifted people that are out there in that sport, and let's say football in general. Like like the NFL team that's like Owen, when the Detroit Lions couldn't have a winning season for how long? People don't realize that team still legitimately, at the end of the day, has 52 of the top players
yeah,
in the world. You know what I mean? They're just playing against other 52 players of the best,
yeah,
in the world.
yeah.
So
Yeah, listen, as a Browns fan, I've always said the Browns aren't bad. It's just that everybody else is better. That's,
right.
you
I
go
tell
0
you
and
one thing. Last year,
16.
you guys are coming around. It's hard. I mean,
Man, the Browns were set for like 2 years, okay? We're set. We have a few little issues, but the Browns, in my opinion, were one of the best teams in the NFL. I don't know what happened last year. Baker Mayfield got hurt. Listen, Baker Mayfield got hurt, and then he told everybody, I'm playing regardless of how hurt I am. And it actually, in my opinion, Baker Mayfield made the Browns lose. I'm still a Baker Mayfield fan, and I think you give him one more year as a healthy individual, but nobody else thinks that. So we had to go spend more than Elon Musk paid for Twitter for Watson out here, Deshaun Watson. And I'm so frustrated by that. But I don't know. I think Baker Mayfield was the guy for the job. I'm just saying now we're back in this whole thing with all the drama of who's the quarterback and who's the coach and what is the owner doing, and it's just like
well,
Well,
speaking of Twitter, what do you what do you think about that whole mess or goodness?
uh
Here, we're doing a
so
podcast, right? Let's hear your honest opinion. Elon Musk
here,
buys Twitter for
I'll
40 some billion. Either
I'll give you
one.
mine. I'll
Yeah,
give you mine
please.
what you're thinking about it, Zach. So here's the deal, right? So you got to be careful what you wish for. So
yep,
the same people applauding him for his freedom of speech forget that 2 to 4 years ago he was talking about putting chips in people.
Right. Yeah, I saw
He's
that.
talked. He's talked about wanting to chip people. He's talked about wanting to create automated people. He has discussed being, a god, like of creating people and being able to keep people alive by just their brain, and all of these things that some of the same people who should be weary of that as Christians are applauding the fact that because we've allowed ourselves to get too political with it. But at the end of
Right.
the day, I'm sorry, whether it's him or Bill Gates, when you're talking about chipping people and altering people's DNA and doing things that, in my opinion, only God should do, I'm weary when you get more power over anything.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that.
So for me, man, like Twitter, in my opinion, if there's zero censorship, then what else is there? Uh, what else is going to be allowed? Right.
Right.
So at what point, like the way that Chris put it last 2 weeks ago, actually, he said it could become a light version of the dark web. And that's like the definition in my head that I keep thinking, like, what will be allowed then? And like, at what point am I going to say this is too much? I can't be on Twitter anymore. Because there's already some days where like I scroll through Twitter and I go, okay, this is too much based on
Yeah.
what's
4chan
already
has
on Twitter.
4chan has freedom of speech. There's several platforms that have wide open freedom of speech, and guess what? They're the darkest. I mean, they're when you start to look at what the federal government, FBI, different agencies are looking into, and some of the things that go on with trafficking and stuff. A lot of it happens on the ones with wide open freedom of speech. I mean,
Yeah.
4chan is scary.
I guess it raises a good question when it comes to faith and stuff, and people, content creators or streamers or socials in general. As a Christian, what is that role? What does our role look like in that atmosphere when it's just you know a free for all? What does that look like as a Christian? Are we supposed to be there engaging? When is enough enough? Or it's like, hey, because I'll be honest with you. When I walk out my front door in the morning, the same stuff that happens on Twitter and all these social media platforms happens right in front of our face.
So as a consultant of Christian creators and Christian business people, like one of the things I'm always like warning people on, especially if they live in an online world and they're a Christian content creator, is you have to be very careful when you decide that your ministry is going to be online. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but one of the things that happens is we get so focused on our ministry being online that we miss the discipleship of the people in front of us.
Right.
And I've seen guys who are phenomenal, people who are phenomenal in the online world, and they really connect with people, but then they have someone in their own house or in their own neighborhood or their own
Come
workplace
on.
that they can't disciple to, or they can't share with, or they can't show the same love and grace to. And so I think that when I really think, me personally, from what I think biblical principles are, I think first and foremost, before we try to be the light on Twitter or anywhere else, and again, I'm not saying we don't have that role, but we have to ask ourselves, are we bringing the light that we bring from the world onto that platform, or are we bringing light to that platform that we're not bringing to the rest of the world? And I
Mm.
think that for me is a big piece of it. Is I don't want to be light in Twitter and not be light in my own house or in my own workplace or
Right.
my own community. I want to bring the light that I'm bringing in my community, in my house, in my neighborhood. I want to bring that light and then bring it to Twitter. And I think that's where we have to kind of be careful as we do this. Is I think sometimes we get so focused on that. I want to battle the darkness that is Twitter. I want to battle the darkness that is. I mean, you've got Christians jumping in all kinds of places.
Right.
I mean, OnlyFans has Christians on there trying to try to preach on OnlyFans. And
Hmm.
the thing that I would ask is like, what does your day to day look like?
Mm-hmm.
Like where are we showing that love? Because you can throw out a whole bunch of high fives. If they all miss, they all miss. And at the end of the day, we got to trust God for that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Nah, well said. Well said. I think it obviously it starts in your home, you know. If you're married, if you're not and you're single, then obviously friendships, relationships outside of your house and your church community. And I think that's a big thing. And I think the last year showed on like Twitter and social media, like even just Christians in general, butting heads about what is right and what is wrong when it comes to like the gaming like you hear that I'm a Christian content creator, and then you hear I'm a content creator who is Christian,
Mm.
and I think collectively there's I think we focus too much on what the title is versus what the mission is. You know what I mean? And it can get muddy if if the reason why you're doing what you're doing isn't clear. You know what I mean? Um, so it's just a gray area when it comes to social media and online ministry specifically, I think.
Yeah. And then I know too for like Christian content creator Twitter is feels sometimes like it's focused on like the secondary issues rather than the primary issues. And it gets frustrating some days. I'm like,
What do you
ah,
say that one more time?
like Christian Twitter, Christian content creator Twitter sometimes feels like it's focused on secondary issues and it's like you're terrible because this blah 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 and it's like okay that's kind of a secondary issue. Are they, are people preaching Jesus and are they preaching that the only way to heaven is, accepting what Jesus did, repenting of your sins and living a life for Jesus? Like is that what's being preached or is it like, and sometimes I'm wondering like, well, wait a minute, they said this and it's like okay, yeah, that's also a secondary issue. Like for instance, me and my friends have conversations over free will and predestination and that whole thing. Like
That's
that's
a
a
whole month
whole
worth of
conversation.
podcasts.
Exactly. But I still believe that they're going to heaven. They believe I'm going to heaven because those are secondary
Mhm.
sorts of issues there. You know what I mean? Like we all believe that Jesus died on the cross for our sins. We've repented. We've come, we come to Jesus and we and like
That's a
I
theology
don't know.
thing, not a
It's
salvation thing.
exactly. And so it's one of those things where like it is a secondary issue. And sometimes I feel like the secondary issues become primary issues sometimes. And it's a little
Right.
frustrating to see.
But they're
But
really good conversations for podcasts.
right.
No, like seriously, like when I first came onto the platform, I wanted so badly because I didn't know anybody. Like honestly, like I just knew that I love God and I knew I was here for a reason.
Yeah.
Like a year ago, I wanted so badly for as many Christians to come together from all types of whether you were Baptist, whether you were Pentecostal, whatever you called yourself, whatever denomination you said you were, you said you follow God. I wanted everybody to come together and just chop it up. Not in the
Yeah.
sense of like an argument, but in the sense of I try to put myself into someone's shoes who does not know Jesus and approach it as like, okay, if I talk to this gentleman right here in front of me, that person being me, and he starts talking to me about my faith or your faith or whatever the case may be, how do we engage? How is he going to engage me? Is he relating to me or is he like preaching from an ivory tower? You know what I mean? Like I want someone that I can relate to, that I could sit down and feel comfortable with. And I think that's great, like for podcasts like this and what other people are doing in this space, is that I want to see more non-Christians. I want to see more people that don't know Jesus involved in the communities because that's the whole entire purpose. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's one thing to have a whole entire community of Christians, but we want to see the fruit, the low-hanging fruit
Yeah.
in there as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You talk about, somebody that you can have a relationship with. Bro, the other night on your stream, you were having conversation like with somebody who barely knew English. He
Oh my
was
God.
streaming,
Oh, that
yeah,
was
and you
wild,
were
dude.
that was why like he had somebody in your chat basically telling you what he was saying. It was
Right.
funny.
That
It was
was
funny. But like you were still relating to him and having a good time. And like that was so cool to see. You're like, I find somebody I can relate to, and I'm like, you don't
yeah.
even speak this guy's language, bro. What are you talking? Like you can relate with anybody, it
It's
feels
just well,
like.
it's the beauty of not like just treating that person as a human being
Yeah,
first
absolutely.
and foremost. It's not like I'm not going to walk up to someone on the street, shake their hand, and the first thing I say to them is like, "Yo, do you know what God did for you? You're dying if you don't accept it." Like, you know what I mean? Like yes,
Yeah,
that's there's consequences for our sin, but yet I want to get to know you a little bit so that
yeah,
you are just ready to absorb and have an open mind of what I have
Yeah.
to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So
And that's kind of a goal that Chris and I have talked about too, is like if you just start with, hey, do you know Jesus? Like, people get turned off pretty quick by that. And like you said, you want to form this relationship with them. And like I said, Chris and I have talked about this, like making content that is so good that people almost have to watch, so that when you talk to them about Jesus, they still can't look away.
right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
like, it's one of those kinds of things that like we've talked, Chris and I have talked about. We're
Well,
figuring it out.
and I think a good biblical way to look at it from my perspective is that, so in two situations in the Bible, two miracles, Jesus took very little food and turned it into a whole lot of food. Food for few and made it food for many, right? And so when you look at that, the reason I bring that up is that Jesus just as well could have said, "You're here for me. Let me tell you the truth." But what did he do? He fed them. He got them, we're able to quench their thirst a little bit. We're able to fill their bellies a little bit. And at the end of it, he talks, right? So it wasn't just like, hey, you know what? You're hungry, don't worry about it. You're thirsty, don't worry about it. You're gonna sit here and listen to me, and that truth is gonna fill you. No, he built trust, he showed love, he showed grace. And I think that we get stuck on the miracle part of that, right? The miracle part with the disciples and do you not have faith, all that stuff, right? But when you think about the presentation to thousands, that presentation was about, let me connect with you first, let me serve you
Mm.
first, and then let me tell you about the truth.
Right.
But often we
Yeah.
want to tell about the truth before we serve.
Right.
But in most of the Bible,
Uh,
you'll see service comes before sharing of the truth.
I agree. I
yeah.
agree wholeheartedly with that. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's gonna be times where you might have 2 minutes and 2 minutes only to really reach that person, tell them what the truth is and who the truth is, and you got to get right down to the nitty gritty. And that's why I think it's important that we don't talk about the Holy Spirit a lot. Well, I'm not saying we don't, but in the whole midst of talking about the gospel, we fail to realize the purpose of the Holy Spirit and Him living inside of us and Him giving us that guidance that we need, and as a Christian having the discernment to move when he says move. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's a little deeper than um but like it kind of like goes with exactly your point, is that sometimes you just got to let the spirit move.
Mm-hmm.
um but most people, I know, at least for me when I was saved, most people, for me personally, the person that helped me through this and led me to Jesus was very relatable and I could understand what he was saying because he's been through what I was, what I went through. Um, I don't know. I just think it's very important to have that relatability first, like you said, and that's a
Yeah.
service. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it is. It's a service.
And I
Well,
think
and
part of that is humility, right? So, like, I think for myself, and for many that I've spoken to, I think that when you look at how you came to know Jesus, there's typically a process, right? There's typically a little bit of tilling the ground, right? There's a little bit of softening the soil. So at some point you were softened. Then there's a little bit of planting the seed, and there's a little bit of going out and putting that soil back over, and a little bit of watering. And so it's a process. When you think about it, I think when you engage with someone, you have to kind of look at it and understand that the Holy Spirit's going to guide you at what you need to be in that process, right? You maybe that's where you go and you serve them. You just show them the love of Jesus. Maybe they need to hear the word of Jesus. Maybe they're
mm,
at the moment of truth. But at some point, we all play different roles. So all three of us can meet a person at three different times and have
Right.
three different roles as Christians. If we're allowing the Holy Spirit to move through us, where one of us is, maybe softening that soil and just saying, hey, setting that example, and a little bit of Jesus loves you. And then maybe Joey's next, and Joey's meant to serve him a little bit and soften a little bit more and kind of bury that seed. And then Zach, maybe you're supposed to come in and say, "Hey, man, I only got 2 minutes. Jesus loves you. He's waiting on you." And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, it just clicks, right? So
Right.
it's all has pieces, and I think that's where, and you see it a lot in a lot of ministry that's happening right now. Is it's one approach, and you know, regardless how you feel about the person, but Stephen Furtick has mentioned it a few times, and some of the stuff he does is we're just here to evangelize. We're just here to evangelize. But when you look at the role of the disciples, when you look at the role of whether New Testament or Old Testament, it doesn't really matter. When you look at the role of people who had spiritual influence in the name of God, they played different roles in different people's lives at different times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm sitting here you're sitting here speaking really good stuff. I'm like, my mind is like, I was thinking about this person in my chat this morning, and we were kind of touching on this topic a little bit, and he's not a believer by any means, but he was asking really good questions because he was like talking about the King James version. He was talking about he would always he was always curious about what the temple was, right? And he's never read the New Testament, and he said, I was reading through the Old Testament. I said, well, why were you reading through the Old Testament? I'm just curious. And he was like, he read it like he was reading it like a book. He started, and he said, every time that I asked someone this question, I always got a response that was like people were disgusted with me because I didn't know the answer. He's literally said, like, I had like if you go through my VOD, you can see the whole conversation. It was beautiful. And I just simply asked him, and I was trying to guide him to, like, the New Gospel of John, telling him to start there. But I asked him, I said, what are you looking for? Like, how come you're reading the Bible? And he quite frankly was like, I just want to know about your guys' faith, and I just really need a friend to talk to about. And this is this is ministry online. I don't know this guy in real person, but this gentleman literally came to the chat, and all he wanted was someone to talk to about what he did not understand about God. And what kept him there for 2 hours was the fact that the chat, myself, we just basically took him under our wing, you know what I mean? And just basically had a normal conversation with him. And it wasn't like, well, this is what God said, and the Old Testament temple is X, Y. And you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Like, it's to the point of what you're saying is come alongside someone, be a friend to them, and guide them the way that that person needs to be guided. And every situation is going to be different.
Yeah, and the Holy Spirit will take care of that, right? So I think, like, one of my struggles when I was kind of new to Christianity, and I was trying to had some serious mental health battles, and one of the things that I struggled with was I would say, okay, people would say, cast it to God, cast your words to God. I'm like, what does it mean? What means you cast it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. What? I've tied it to a rock. I've thrown it at God. I shot it in the missile. I taped it to an airplane, and it's not working. Like, I've even tried letters to Santa to see if he could get it to God, and
Wow.
it's not casting. So what am I doing wrong?
Tie it to a balloon.
Right.
That's how you get it up to heaven. You got to get it up there, man.
Yeah.
The rock just going to fall back down.
I was like, man, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm about to invest in some Elon Musk, airspace equipment so I can get it to heaven. I was like, and I just kept getting that. It's just like the scriptures were just given to me, right? It's just over and over, scripture. But as I started to, like, really just read and trust the Holy Spirit and be around people who, you can discern or are trusting the Holy Spirit, I started to learn that the casting started with figuring out what your root is. And it's not just, hey, the my problem is anxiety. What's the root of that anxiety? Because that's what I got to cast to God. So what I learned was I wasn't casting wrong. I wasn't casting the wrong way in prayer or anything else. I was casting the wrong things. Right? I thought I was supposed to cast suicide, right? Because that's what I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with suicide. No, I'm supposed to cast the things that have built to that point.
Amen.
And you start to see some of the biblical principles there. But what happens is so many people were just sharing the scriptures, right? Like, just keep telling me, right? With Jesus, you can do anything, or with Jesus, where you're weak, he's strong. And I'm like, guys, Dr. Seuss says a lot of cool things too, and I'm still
Right.
lost. Like I need some substance. And I think that's where a lot of times we put the burden on non-believers, new believers, young believers, whatever you want to call them, and we put the burden on them to figure out what they need at that moment. And I think that what kind of Joey was saying earlier really resonates for me is that it's really about trusting the Holy Spirit
Mm.
to know that the Holy Spirit, that Jesus Christ is going to, that you're going to be taking care of what you need to say to represent Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.
Right. Amen.
And there's a power.
And realizing that we're not the ones that has the ability to save someone, right?
No,
Like it's not us. And going back to your point, you made like analogy just popped in my head. It's almost like a sermon was getting ready to pop up, but you were talking about what we were casting what you were casting was the wrong thing. And I was thinking about like vacuuming a room. Like you ever get like you start vacuuming, right? How many times, I mean, I know for me a million times I vacuum the center of the room, but like when it's time to pull chairs out and stuff and vacuum underneath and in the behind the couch and underneath the things where it's the dirtiest, you know what I mean? We don't want to touch that. You know why? Because number one, it's hard to get to. Number two, it's awful and it takes a long time. And that's like that analogy of like, how many times have I in my life went to God for repentance or to talk to him about an issue in my life, and I always went to God, help me pray for my wife a little more. It's like, yeah, that's important, but that's an easy fix, right? Like you just need to be more disciplined in your walk. But when we talk about like pride and we talk about like self-righteousness and we talk about how we handle Twitch channels and how we talk, it gets hard and we don't want to deal with it. You know what I mean? And you're absolutely right. We always go to the surface. Like you said, suicide isn't the problem. That was a result of things led up to like my drug issue and why I went to 2 rehabs. The drugs weren't the problem.
no.
It was everything leading up to made me do the drugs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which was the hard part.
And I think like the analogy I use, and I spend a lot of time around veterans, so this may or may not resonate with others, but so there's a army base that's used for basic training in Georgia, and it's called Fort Benning. And Fort Benning has this, they had this gas chamber where you go through it and it's your experience of gas. So you got to take off your mask, got to suck a little of it up so you know what it feels like, and then you run out. At the end of this tunnel was a tree. Okay. So you take off your mask, you can't see, you can't breathe, you're sprinting out of it. And guess what? Face first, half the guys run into a tree. Well, the US government said, we're having a lot of broken noses, broken jaws, broken cheekbones. We got to get rid of this tree. So someone, like most government things, decides to make the genius decision to cut this thing down to a tree stump. Right. So now
they're just going to trip over it.
Now, yeah. Well, I mean, they're not going to break their face, Zach. Come on now. And so what happened was the same thing. They're going through the gas chamber, take your mask off, and then you run into the stump. And what happens when you run into the stump? Well, it breaks your ankles, breaks your legs, it tears Achilles. Now the damage is actually worse than a couple chipped teeth or a broken nose. And well, this is a problem. Well, what's the ultimate problem? The problem was we didn't take the problem by its roots, and we just looked at the stump. We looked at the tree and we said, hey, we'll make it a stump. At the end of the day, if you don't grab the problem by its roots, if you don't completely uproot it, especially in the Christian walk, if you are not looking for those roots, most likely you're just band-aiding a much larger issue.
Right.
You mentioned pride and something that I pray for forgiveness every night, and for forgiveness, for strength to improve, the strength to see, discernment, clarity, is pride and ego. Right? Like we've got to understand, as Christians, and everybody's got a different, I call them less tangible sins that they struggle with. Pornography is obvious, murdering people is obvious, theft is obvious, drugs may be obvious, but some of those are less obvious. And so when you're talking about pride and you're talking about ego and those things, those are often the roots of the other things you're struggling with. When somebody's lying, when they're bearing false witness, they're usually doing it for pride or ego.
I'm a firm believer. I've said this since I got out of um, seminary school. Was I believe every single sin can be traced back to pride. I think the root of our issue as a human being is pride, and obviously self-righteousness. And I mean, every single time that I've thought and sat down and did exactly what you just said and went to the root of the issue, it always stemmed from some type of pride, starting there and then sprinkling out from there. So
And,
Yeah,
and the way that
I
Joey, and I'm sorry, Zach,
no,
I'll
you're good.
stop talking and let you go. But the
You're
last
good.
thing
You're
I'll
fine.
share, the last thing I'll share there, Joey, is that so the way I got there, so I didn't get there through seminary school. The way I got there was I looked at like what do I believe to be one of the most important characteristics? And a lot of people will say love, and I get it. I think it's grace because I think grace includes love and includes forgiveness. Grace includes a lot of biblical principles. So I think grace is very important. So then I looked at psychologically. When you look at how the brain works, what opposes grace? What keeps people from being graceful? However you define grace, what defeats grace fastest? And it's pride.
mm-hmm.
Your pride and ego tend to prevent you from showing grace, making you impatient, making you unforgiving, making you think someone doesn't deserve your forgiveness. Pride and ego tend to be the root of everything that opposes grace.
Right.
So I
And you
couldn't
don't
agree with
even
you
have to
more.
be a Christian. Like let's keep it a buck. You don't even have to be a Christian to understand that your issues in life will stem back to pride and ego, like
Yep.
as a human being. Like we're not even let's set the faith talk aside. Like for anybody that's listening to the podcast or here on Twitch now that struggles with, you fill in the blank in your maybe marriage or your life or your workspace or whatever the case may be, you have to look at that. Like you have to be able to tackle that and understand and be accountable to the fact that it's probably the pride of thinking about yourself first before you think about others. You know what I mean? So it's a good
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I no, you're right. That's something that I've thought about as well. Is that like you said, it all traces back to pride, and whether that's the root of it all, I don't know, but I know that there's a lot of times where if you do trace it back to the root, even 9 times out of 10, it's a lot of it does come down to pride or greed or something that's
Yeah.
it's more one of those generic terms rather than just like, oh, because I walked on a rock the other day and now the consequences are that my foot hurts. Like something that needs bigger attention, which
Right.
is why that's which the idea of like this whole streaming thing of like whether it's pride or ego or whatever. Like I haven't streamed on my own personal channel in like over a month because one, I'm trying to figure things out, but two, I'm really working on family right now. Like just like what comes first?
Right.
Family does,
Right.
and so that it's that same thing where like I'd love to stream, but you got to focus on a family and that sort of thing, which I love it. I don't care. I love it, but
I mean,
yeah,
like the reality is if your home's not
yeah,
built on a solid foundation,
right,
especially being a Christian, if it's not rooted in in that foundation of God and what He's calling us to do as husbands and fathers, um, your stream is not like let's be honest. It might be cool for a little while, but in the long run, it's not gonna work out. You know what I mean? Because that's not the
yeah,
will that He has for you.
right,
So
There,
at
there
least
are. Sorry, go ahead.
no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There are incredible representations, and I'll use that word loosely, credible representations of men of God across all of the world, right? You can find them in, you know, online preachers, television preachers, local preachers. Um, missionaries, wherever you want to look. But at the end of the day, one of the common denominators when those guys, and again, I loosely use the term representatives, when those guys have their fall, most often the fall that is public is a household fall,
Mm.
right? So they're you find out they're cheating on their wife, they're having affairs, they're kids are addicted to drugs, they're having struggles. Like a lot of the struggles that you see, it starts in the house.
Right.
And when you start to listen for those who will come back years later and share their stories, especially the families of, I think that's the important one. When the children, when the wife comes out and speaks, what you often learn is that the family was neglected. They weren't they might have been a representation of a man of God on screen, but in their own home they weren't. And I heard this yesterday by accident. Well, by my accident, by God's intentions. And
There's that
what I
word.
heard, yeah, yeah. What I heard was this gentleman was talking about when you when you lead your family should come first. So he was telling this story about how he was doing ministry, and he was out there and he was teaching the high schoolers and he was teaching the teenagers, and he was all about it, and he was saving souls, and God was working through him, and he was great. And one day he's leaving, and his daughter's 6 or 7, and he goes, "Where are you going, Dad?" And he goes, I'm going to such high school to tell young people about God." And she looks at him and she goes, when are you going to teach me about God?
Mm.
And he looked and he goes, I mean, what do you mean? And she's like, well, you spend all this time with others, but you never spend
Right.
time with me talking
Wow.
about God.
Yeah.
And so this little, from the mouths of the innocent, right? Like this little girl's like looking and saying, "Hey, like you're not doing it." So he immediately made the decision to move from ministry, and he goes, "When I believe that my daughter knows Jesus, that I've done right by my family, I'll get back into ministry." And I think that's to kind of what Joey was saying, Zach, even what you were saying about taking time off. Like that's the big deal, right? Is like when you look biblically, how are we leading, especially if you look at the Bible and Jesus and Jesus' bride, you look at our brides, our literal wives, how are we leading them?
Right.
Before we go anywhere else, like our pyramid of priorities, according to Jesus Christ, it's going to start with that, and then our discipleship and our love and all those things. But how are we treating our bride? How are we treating the one that we're around the most, or should be loving the most?
Right. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean,
Amen.
that's 100. I mean, you're spot on, man. And it's every single time that I have an issue in my own personal life, I could always typically it's always paralleled. And if I look back at my household, there was something missing
Mm.
there, whether it was intimacy, whether it was prayer time, whether it was just simply me shutting my mouth and not saying something, and keeping my tongue, you know what I mean, tamed. If I'm having a bad day or a bad week, typically I can trace it, and I can guarantee you that my wife probably is a little off, and my kids may be a little off, and it's not synchronized, and it's not the way God intended it to be. You know what I mean? And like you said, with the representatives that you're talking about, it's it always stems back to something with the family. It always does. Because them being our first ministry, it's neglected. And then you start hearing the word sacrifice and stuff like that. Well, I sacrificed them for however long to reach something that I need, that I wanted. And it's like, okay, that's cool that what you wanted happened, i.e. a job, I don't know, to save some money for college, whatever the case may be, but still you sacrifice the wrong, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
typically there's an issue there with it. So, and it comes with preachers too, pastors. Like you said,
Yeah.
they sacrifice their families all the time.
And they'll tell you, like, I think that's the most embarrassing part, and that's a red flag for me is, and I tell this to Christian content creators and entrepreneurs is, if you're telling me that you're sacrificing your family for God, I'm going to tell you that you've got it backwards, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've shared this with you, Zach, but I have this thing I teach. It's the four, your 4 pillars. And one of the things is your team and how you serve your team. And what I personally teach is that your team, so let's say you have 12 employees. Your team is those 12 employees, your spouse and your family, and each of them's spouse and their families. Because at the end of the day, your team, if you've got 12, let's say you've got 12, six female, 6 male, all of them are impacted or are being impacted from their workspace by their families, right? If they're working too much, their families are impacted. If their family life is a mess, their work's being impacted. And so until you consider that your team includes your family and the family of those that you employ or work with, you're probably missing the prioritization of discipleship in your own house.
Right.
And to me, that's the big one. You're hitting it on the head with the sacrifice. Like, please do not sacrifice the priorities that God has given us for other priorities.
Right.
Like, that's not how it works, man.
Right. The only sacrifice that should be happening is when you're fasting.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I always get in trouble. Side note, I always get in trouble when like my one time my church was like, all right, we're gonna fast this week or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I have kidney issues. I had a kidney transplant. I have to take medicine twice a day, and they're like, you have to eat with your medicine. What am I supposed to go
eat with your medicine,
yeah, I know, but listen. So here's the other thing too is they were like, you can eat like 2 saltine crackers, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. I'll just drink like a little thing of juice, and I'll take communion twice a day. So there we go.
Right. Are you? Here's the big question: are you still part of that church? No.
No, I'm actually not. Did at any point they tell you if you had more faith, you wouldn't need the medicine or the?
No.
Oh my Lord.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
Dude, I have unfortunately, and I won't put any denominations on blast, but there are a couple of denominations that have been around where I've heard that kind of conversation, and I'm just like, wait, what?
Oh my Lord. I just, again, that's not the whole point of this podcast, but we can have a little fun and banter while we're at it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I was talking to my wife, I think it was like yesterday, the day before, about the church she grew up in before we met. And let's just say what you just said about the whole faith thing, and oh my gosh, running up and down chairs and all that crap, you know what I mean? Like, it was, she had me cry. I was crying. I almost felt bad. Like, I was crying laughing, but I wanted to cry because I felt bad because it was like more of a cult, you know what I mean? Oh man.
I don't know if either of you are kind of old enough, because I think just as you are probably coming to age to understand this, it kind of stopped. But there was in the 80s, in the late 70s and 80s, and it still happens in other countries, part of being a Christian was being snake bit. There were cults, there were full cults. Brands Davidians were one, but there were several that would include like allowing yourself to show your faith, allowing yourself to get bit by a snake.
Nice. Yeah.
They're still around, right? And they like preach and they like hold a snake while they're preaching.
I don't know if they're still. I don't know if they're still alive in the still kicking in the U.S. as denominations. I'm sure they do in fundamentalist areas, but they have power. Like in some of the other nations I've been to, especially in missionary work, there are definitely not just Christians but other faiths that include being bit by cobras or any other kind of snake that potentially sends you to the hospital.
Yeah, that's absolutely wild. I'd rather never mind.
I'd rather read my Bible. So
on a completely different note,
right.
two picks ago, The
Oh, okay.
Steelers finally took a quarterback at 20th. They took
Did
Kenny
they?
Pickett. That's the only quarterback that's been taken 22 picks in. That's the only quarterback
Holy
that's
cow.
been taken.
So they
say
took
that
a
Say
quarterback.
that one more time.
Because hey, listen, the Steelers were up for like, hey, if Baker Mayfield's still out there, like, yeah.
Yeah,
I made the comment actually for the Steelers. The Steelers were wanting Baker Mayfield if he like was released or whatever, and then Dwayne Haskins died, which that was super sad to hear about.
Right.
But then later, my sister was like, "Well, are the Steelers going to want Baker Mayfield now? Because like they're down a quarterback, you know." So.
Did you hear that story about I'm sure you guys definitely have, but with the Tom Brady thing and the ball?
Yeah, he repay the guy back or something in Bitcoin?
No, but well,
or is that not what you're talking about?
Well, that's similar, but so the ball, the final touchdown, right?
Yeah.
Didn't Tom Brady come out of retirement?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's
the ball's like worth like like
like
nothing now?
$120 now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, and I heard he paid the guy back in like some Bitcoin or something like that. It was
Yeah,
like he was like, okay.
They
Something
refunded him or
was
paid him back or something like that.
What happened?
They either refunded him or Brady somehow he got his money back.
Money back. Okay, good. I didn't get that far into it. I read it yesterday. And I was like, holy crap, that's terrible.
Just wait till like Tom Brady like tears his Achilles or something and doesn't actually play the season, and that ended up being like
yeah. Oh no.
like just brutal. Or Tom Brady facilitated all to get that ball, and he's just gonna retire anyways. But who knows? There's claims that he did all this to be a Dolphin, and I guess there was some truth to that.
Wow.
He had made all of this to end up in Miami, and essentially his deal was that they would move Bruce Arians up and no longer be the coach, and so he agreed to it. I guess him and Bruce had kind of butted heads.
Listen, being a Browns fan and seeing Ben Roethlisberger retire made me happy. And what made me a little more happy was the fact that Tom Brady basically like trumped Ben Roethlisberger's retirement with his own retirement. I'm like, like Ben Roethlisberger, get out of here, bro. I'm a Browns fan. You've beat us so many times. Just leave. Go away.
Right.
I don't want you anymore. And then Tom Brady's like, wait, here I come back again. I was like, that just made it even better icing on the cake.
Yeah, Roethlisberger's beat the Browns more than he's assaulted women.
That's true.
So win-win that he's out of the NFL, in my opinion.
Okay, hold on real quick, because until Baker Mayfield, I'm pretty sure this is the stat. Until Baker Mayfield, Ben Roethlisberger was the winningest quarterback in Cleveland Browns Stadium.
Oh, man.
Oh my Lord.
He can't.
Yes.
Greater than Bernie Kosar?
Well, no. Since the Browns came back, since the Browns had come back in '99.
That's not fair, Zach. That's not fair,
bro. It's been 20 years.
Yeah, but
and the Browns can't win in 20 years. They are so bad that a quarterback from another team who only plays there once a season. Our quarterbacks play there 8 games a season.
That's pretty bad.
Telling me that when a quarterback plays there once a season, he's got more wins than any of our quarterbacks had.
They've had more quarterbacks than they've had cheerleaders.
That's true. They've got there's a shirt. There's a shirt.
They're not gonna get a lot of wins. So one, they're only winning twice a year. So let's say they split that. That's once a year they're winning at home. And then you've got 9 quarterbacks start a season. It's a pretty limited chance you're gonna get a guy to win more than 10 games as a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah, I'm on the board here where
I think it's time for you to stop being a Cleveland Browns fan.
I'm almost there. I'm almost there. We had one good season, and then they were like, okay, let's get rid of him. What are you doing?
Whatever you do, don't go to the Steelers, please.
Please don't. Yeah.
Right. Gentlemen, it's my time. I got to head out. My son keeps on coming in and out, but you guys blessed me tonight. I thank you guys so much. 2 weeks, right? 2 more weeks?
2 weeks,
time,
yes, sir.
Same place?
Same bat channel.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your night, okay?
Hey, you too, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Have a good night.
Yep. Take care, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I follow NFL. I haven't
Uh-huh.
followed college very closely. So as far as picks and stuff, I'm kind of out of it.
Well, I mean, the good thing is that Kenny Pickett's from Pitt, so you got a Pitt guy staying in Pitt. I think the downside is like he's a first round pick, and every comparison I saw was comparing him to Kirk Cousins. And I don't know that anybody would go back and say Kirk Cousins is the first quarterback taken of a draft. I mean, so not a great comparison in my eyes, but dude, it's nuts, man. They're cornerback after cornerback after cornerback, offensive lineman, offensive lineman. One one linebacker, one safety, one
Another
quarterback.
cornerback was just selected.
Was that the one by the Bills
The
or
Bills,
another one
yep.
after that? Yeah.
No, the Bills one. Am I
So
behind?
not yeah. I
Well, it
got
says
five and a
live,
half
but
minutes left for the Cowboys. So dude, they were saying there might be three quarterbacks picked. Well, it was only 9 picks left.
they're
9 picks. And you got the Cowboys with Dak. You've got the Ravens with Lamar. You've got the Titans with Tannehill. You got the Bucks. Maybe they go with somebody. But Bucks with Brady. You got the Rodgers. They got Love and Rodgers. So the Packers aren't touching anybody. The Patriots just got Mac Jones, and Mac Jones proved to be a heck of a pick. You've got the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. You've got the
yeah.
Vikings,
And
who
isn't
maybe
Juju on the Chiefs now?
yeah, he's
Is
on the
that
Chiefs now.
yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the Bengals ain't taking one. The Vikings probably the most likely. So there's two things happen. The Vikings take one, and somebody else moves into the first round. So I think there'll be two quarterbacks taken at the end. Somebody will move into the first round, at least one, so they get that 5th-year option on a quarterback. So I think there's still time for two more quarterbacks. It's all going to be those next 9 teams being willing to make the trade for somebody to come in.
Yeah. It's so funny because like, all the talk around the Browns was um, trading for either Derek Carr or trading for Kirk Cousins. And I'm like, no to both of those, please.
Derek
And
Carr is not bad. Kirk Cousins is just a little bit better Baker Mayfield.
yeah, but Derek Carr hasn't proven himself either. And I feel like Deshaun
That team's
Watson, even
dysfunctional,
then,
though.
yeah, but even Deshaun Watson on a good team, I felt like with probably the best receiver in the NFL at the time, still couldn't get things done in Houston. And I'm like, why are we going to bring him
Well,
here?
I think Deshaun Watson.
Oh, yeah, and the
Deshaun
Browns
Watson
did
wins the
get
Super
Amari
Bowl.
Cooper.
Deshaun
He
Watson will win the Super Bowl. I think Deshaun Watson is probably one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. The problem
really,
is he's had Bill O'Brien's one of the worst coaches in NFL history. You have a dysfunctional offensive line, a dysfunctional running back team. You had the best wide receivers, but man, every guy who's left that organization has talked about how broken that organization was.
really,
Even JJ Watt, who's a heck of a guy. But
that's a
at the
good
end of the
point.
day, one, the Cleveland Browns have not proven themselves at any point to be more functional than any dysfunctional organization. So
It's pretty bad.
That's
They
the
had one
first thing.
functional year and then decided to ruin it. So that's how
Deshaun
dysfunctional
Watson
they are.
went to the Saints. Secondly, and the reason why I would never root for the Saints if they selected him, the same reason that I really haven't rooted for the Saints the last couple of years when they picked Jameis Winston. At the end of the day, the Browns are crossing every set of fingers they have in that organization to hope that something terrible doesn't happen over the next 6 months, 9 months, as they continue to go through these assault allegations. And they've got lie detector tests coming up now and all this other stuff. And it's crazy, man. Like it's wild. Like I could not imagine that the Browns having Baker Mayfield, right? I got it for the Panthers having Sam Darnold, but for the Browns to go and take that risk on a guy who potentially assaulted a dozen women,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
you weren't as desperate as you have Sam Darnold. Like I get it if you got Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And I genuinely don't get it either way. But right, Sam Darnold, like you know the guy sucks. But
Yeah.
you had Baker Mayfield, you had dysfunctional wide receivers, who you can possibly blame. You've had dysfunctional coaching. You've had dysfunctional leadership. So to take a risk on a Deshaun Watson, and I always say this, I tell someone got all the time. When you have dysfunction around you and you don't have the right people, you can't blame the people. You look at Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper and the Nationals. The Nationals won a World Series the second Bryce Harper stepped away. Bryce
Yeah.
Harper was a cancer. He is a
Yeah.
cancer. So when you look at that, like OBJ, dude, cancer.
Yeah.
Landry, off and on, cancer.
Yeah.
There's Browns players who have been in. Landry wasn't as bad as he was in Miami, so I'm not saying that he's, he was a cancer in, terrible cancer. But look at Hopkins. Hopkins has been somewhat of a cancer in down in Arizona, and Michael
Yeah.
Thomas in the Saints. Like it doesn't. You don't have to be super out there cancer. Even Kyler Murray right now, you don't have to be like the most obnoxious cancer to be hurtful to the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that Baker Mayfield was somewhat of a cancer last year because it felt like to me he was like, I'm gonna play hurt. I don't care what you say. I don't care what the trainers say, what the coaches. I'm playing, even though I'm hurt. I can still throw a football. That's my job, right? To hand off a football and to throw a football. I can do those two things. And to me, that actually hurt the Browns last year more than any of the drama did. I think that if he was healthy, he would still be able to get the ball to OBJ. If he was healthy, he'd still be able to, like, the other problem too was that he only ever threw to tight ends, and I was so frustrated by that. That's why we
Well,
paid like millions of dollars for Austin Hooper.
yeah, but we just talked about roots, my man. When you look at the root is you had cancerous wide receivers saying that man was a poor leader. That man was a poor example as a quarterback. That painted him in a position where, hurt or not, he had to play. Because if he didn't play, he'd get the same reputation as Jay Cutler for not going out there and playing. And we've seen that with Cam Newton. We've seen that with several quarterbacks where when they didn't go and play hurt, people questioned their toughness. People questioned their leadership. You got a guy like Drew Brees who went and played all broken up and all messed up and cost. I believe he cost his team some games and even in the playoffs. And I think that at the end of the day, the NFL expectation and a lot of that pressure from those outspoken guys like OBJ leads to quarterbacks playing when they shouldn't play.
Yeah. It's so tough because, like, it's a little bit of everybody is what it seems like, at least for the Browns last year. Being a Browns fan, I paid a lot of attention to the Browns. That was, oh man, because I feel like one guy was hurt, so he couldn't make the best throws. So it had to come down to who was catching the ball, right? Well, if the guys who are catching the ball are also kind of being an issue as well, they're not going to give their all to catch the ball. Well, then at this point, you just, I don't know. It was so tough. I remember last year. So OBJ was in the Super Bowl with the Rams, okay? And I was salty about him leaving the Browns. And I said, I am not rooting for the Rams because I'm like, I don't want OBJ to win a Super Bowl. Like after the way he left the Browns, I'm like, you're not winning the Super Bowl. Well, then I had a chance that if the Rams scored on that one drive there at the end, if they scored there and kicked the field goal, I was going to win $25. And at that point, I realized I don't care if OBJ wins. I want $25.
Fair enough.
And I got my $25, and OBJ won his Super Bowl. So,
Well, and just speaking of Hopkins, we were talking about with the Cardinals. So the Cardinals gave up their first round pick to the Ravens to take Hollywood from the Ravens. So they just took Marquise Brown for a first round draft pick. So there's something wrong in that locker room, and some have blamed Murray. I blamed Hopkins. I think ultimately it's Murray as a quarterback. You also got to blame the head coach. But at the end of the day, They spent all this money on Hopkins. They lost Christian Kirk. Fitzgerald hasn't retired, but hasn't came back. There's a little dysfunction there, it looks like. They spent all this money on Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt. Chandler Jones is now gone. And now they're going and make a big trade for Marquise Brown. And it's just these things don't add up, man. They don't like – and a lot of people have compared Baker Mayfield's leadership and Kyler Murray's, and maybe you're right. Maybe it is an issue with Baker's leadership, but I think we'll see. Right, he goes wherever he ends up, he's going to be a starter.
Yeah,
and I think if he goes and he makes big splashes, I think a lot of people are going to shut their mouths. I mean, the Seahawks still don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
So Seahawks are still a big play, and
yeah.
Mayfield said out loud, "I want to be a Seahawk."
Yeah, and that's why too. For me, I said that what Baker needs to do is do what he did last season, where he said, "I'm gonna play." He needs to do that for however many games that Watson's out. Although I don't see this happening because I think that relationship between the Browns and Baker is done. I don't think he'll ever play for the Browns again. But what I was saying was, if it's 8 games, if it's 6 games, whatever that Watson ends up being out, like Baker has a hurt reputation. Nobody wants him right now. They don't want to pay big dollars for him anyway. What he needs to do is play those games, show the NFL I can win. That's what I think. Because at this point, so even when he was winning, people still didn't give him the respect that he deserved. People were like, he's got these other guys around him that are making plays for him. And then those guys left.
Man.
They don't want to pay the price because right now the Browns signed that 5th-year option. They don't want to take.
I don't think it's that. I think they're sabotaging him, man. The Browns are asking. When you look at what they're supposedly asking for him, they're wanting 1st-round picks for a guy they don't believe is the first. Like
he's the starting quarterback. Yeah, exactly.
Like you just had to go get somebody else and trade a whole bunch because you didn't think this is the guy, but you want them. I mean, from what I've read. Like they're basically wanting for Baker what they just a little bit less than what they just paid for Watson.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, they're sabotaging it. They know that Baker's not going to have a choice. So I think selfishly, they're going to force Baker to play. He's going to play out until Watson gets there. He'll either build some draft capital or they'll, at the end of the day, they'll cut him, but it's a win-win for them.
Browns just signed a quarterback. The Jacoby Brissett? Brissett?
Yeah.
I don't think they play Baker Mayfield.
I mean, Jacoby could start. I mean, he started in a few places, but I mean, ultimately, is that a pick? Is that a pick because you're going Watson Brissett, or is that a pick because Watson ain't playing for a while, so you're going Brissett Mayfield, trade Mayfield, and put in Watson?
Yeah, they want to trade Mayfield as quick as they can. I don't think they plan to play him. I don't think they plan to play him. I think he should play because I think enough of the NFL doesn't take him seriously. I think he plays, shows them what he's got. He wins 6-8 games if he can. I mean, and then once Watson comes back, then he's like, trade me. You have to. Which at that point, that's kind of tough to. If nobody still wants him for that price, then at what,
I think he beats out Brissett. He plays for a few games. They trade him game 4 or 5. Brissett plays a couple games, and then Watson comes back. Because no matter what, it's a win-win for them. Even if he comes in and sucks, no matter what, they're not getting a huge, they're not getting what they want unless he plays and wins. So at the end of the day, I think it's a win-win for the Browns as far as they're concerned, and it's a lose-lose for Baker and anyone who wants him. And waiting him out till he gets cut.
Yeah,
teams are going to have to make a decision because I don't think he gets cut before the start of next season.
I don't think he gets cut. I don't think he gets cut. Period. I think he will. Once his contract's up, he'll leave before. I mean, if it was up to him, he'll leave before getting traded because at this point he feels but he feels so betrayed by the Browns. I would too if I were the Browns. If I was Baker Mayfield, I kind of would too.
But that's not the first time. There's a lot of guys who have felt betrayed, and at the end of the day, unless they're Marshawn Lynch, they're probably playing anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with quarterbacks and all that drama.
So you think that he would play?
I think he would. One, he doesn't have a choice contractually. If the Browns want him to play, he's got to play. He doesn't have a choice. He'll lose.
Really?
He'll
Okay.
lose hundreds of thousands of dollars per game. We saw that
Yeah.
with Antonio Brown and some other players.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think he's a competitor. I was going to say this earlier, right? There's two types of people that watch sports: the person who watches the sport for the sport, and the person who watches sports for competition. Baker Mayfield's a competitor. He's not a
Yeah, he
football
is.
player.
Oh,
He's a
yeah, he
competitor.
is. Yeah, he is.
He reminds me a lot like Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow wasn't a football player; he was a competitor. And I think that you have a lot of those guys who, at the end of the day, they're going to go out and they're play, and they're going to hope that it builds up their trade opportunities. He's
Yeah.
probably got an agent that's saying, "Dude, play, ball out, go somewhere else."
Yep.
And probably be selfish, right? Don't take any crazy hits. Don't go
Yeah.
for anything. Don't worry about winning games. Just worry about good stat lines.
Yeah. Yep. He's not worried about. I mean, he wants to win, not for his team that he's playing for, because he knows they don't want him. He's winning for his personal stat line.
Yeah, and hey, dude, if I wanted to stick it to the Browns, and I thought I could do it, and I think Baker's arrogance is similar to what mine would be, bro, I'd go out and I would try to go 6-2.
Yeah, I would try. Yeah, I would try to get as many wins as I could, not to help the Browns, but to help my own stock, and then show them,
I wouldn't be doing it for either.
Yeah,
I'd be doing it because fans would be so hesitant to not have Deshaun Watson come out. You'd look like a bunch of idiots. You almost can't trade me because I'm doing so good.
Yep.
You were absolutely embarrassed.
Yeah.
Like I would do it straight out of pettiness.
Yeah. Yep. As Christ-like as that is, that's where I would be too.
Well, here's the thing. This is why the good Lord has made sure that I wasn't a millionaire 21-year-old. Because I wouldn't be a Christian almost 40-year-old. So we're at pick number 26. The last two picks were offensive linemen again. So, dude, what has there ever been? Let's see.
So here's the question then. Are the running back, the quarterback positions are they not good this trade? Are people actually like focusing on defense more now in the NFL? Is that kind of a swing that you see that as a bunch of quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers, offense also as a bunch of offensive players come through, suddenly you've got high offense in the NFL. Well, now we fixed our offensive problem. Now we need to fix our defensive problem. Now you got players that also see those needs in defense, and they're like, well, I want to play cornerback instead of wide receiver. I want to play cornerback. I want to play safety instead of running back or so. And you see the players moving to those positions. So now the better players are playing defense, and then the NFL is now drafting the better players, which are on defense. Like, is that what's happening? There's just that swing. There's that circle that happens. And eventually you'll have way better defenses than offenses, and teams are going to need better quarterbacks. And you'll see the quarterbacks start to really play better. And
I think there's a few things. I think one, this is running backs haven't been taken in the last decade, right? Like first round, I think they've kind of pushed that. Okay, we can let's push them to second, because you get 5 years, right? And for running backs, you don't know if they're going to make it 5 years. So I think we're at a point where running backs may never really enter back into the first round.
Running backs.
Running backs. And because quarterbacks and receivers have been such a big deal. Then you go and you look at quarterbacks, and I think if we were honest with ourselves, this is probably one of the best 1 through 32 NFL classes, quarterback classes ever. When you look at the top to bottom, you don't have the Drew Brees and the Phillip Rivers, but at the end of the day, your bottom of NFL quarterbacks currently isn't as low as it's been when you had Mark Sanchez as the 27th best quarterback, right? And so I think there's not as big of a need. I think you got a couple teams. You got the Panthers who got Darnold, but there's no proof that Malik Willis or the one or two other guys who are scheduled to fall in the second round, third round. There's no proof any of those guys are better than Sam Darnold. And if they're all somewhat even, take them in the second round. They cost you less money.
Yeah.
And the Seahawks, I think, are probably the team. I'm curious to see if the Panthers or the Seahawks try to move into these last few picks, because Malik Willis was who most people picked as the best quarterback in this draft. I think the downside is he went to Liberty University, and most people don't even know where that's at. And so I think what's curious to me is that, do they come up? Kenny Pickett went first. Some people are picking on saying the guy from Mississippi or Ritter. Who knows with Matt Corral and somehow, but Malik Willis was pretty unanimously considered the best quarterback of the draft. So, and again, does that mean he's any good? The best quarterback of this draft might be a fifth rounder in most drafts. So maybe that's why the hesitation is. But you've got the Jaguars right now on the clock. They're not taking the quarterback.
I just saw the Jets pick. Like,
and the Jets got a rookie from last year with Wilson. Yeah. The Jaguars do. The Jaguars just traded for this pick. The Packers aren't doing it. Packers got Rodgers. The Patriots have a rookie. So it's just like there's really the Bengals have a young guy. The Vikings are literally the only place that it can go right now for a quarterback. So I think you get Panthers move up, maybe, and I don't know what they do with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. Maybe they take this and just say, you know what, dude, we got you another year. Hopefully you do well, but we got to bring in your replacement. But I think the Panthers try to move up at some point, or they just hope that something falls good to the second round. But I'm a little shocked that Malik Willis still hasn't been drafted as hyped up as he was.
That's crazy. So how many quarterbacks have been taken so far, you said?
Just one.
Just one.
That's
amazing.
The Steelers if they are taking the only one. And had they had Haskins, there might not be a quarterback taken yet.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was thinking. They probably felt like they had to take a quarterback early, or at least take the best out there to at least give themselves a pick somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And wide receivers are moving around. The Titans traded AJ Brown. They moved AJ Brown to the Eagles. So you got so all these wide receivers in the draft ended up. AJ Brown got moved. Hollywood got moved. So it's interesting that it's interesting that there might not be another quarterback taken.
That's really interesting, man.
5th-year option though. I think if I was betting, man, I'd bet that somebody comes in and sneaks in and grabs Malik Willis. And I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen between the Packers and the Bengals, because I think if I was the Panthers and I was the team wanting to come in and try to grab Malik Willis, I'd be scared that the Vikings might do it for me. So I don't want to jump up ahead of the Vikings.
Yeah.
So I think we if they're going to do it, there's going to be a trade between 28 and 31 right now, and those 4 picks.
Okay.
So we'll see, because the Jaguars the pick is in. So we'll see who the Jags get.
Why would the Bengals want a quarterback? Just as a backup?
No, I don't think the Bengals do. I think those are where the Panthers are going to trade into.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Or one of the teams.
Listen, Joe Burrow going to the Super Bowl last year was amazing, because that was part for me too. Being a Browns fan, I don't want to see somebody from the AFC North winning like that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Joe Burrow, who, as I was saying, he was living the timeline that all of us Browns fans said, hey, Baker Mayfield, this is what we expect of you. Season 2, your second year in the NFL, you're going to the Super Bowl, bro. Right? Wasn't it second year for Joe Burrow?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Same here.
like
First
I
year
think it
fully
was
healthy.
it when the Bengals played the Jaguars? And I think it was this last season. I think so. It was funny because the Bengals beat the Jaguars and then Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow met, midfield, whatever. And they're one of them's mic'd up or something like that. That you catch this, and Joe Burrow's like, "Bro, it gets better. Trust me, it gets better." Because Joe Burrow's first season was awful. not because he was bad, but I think his
Bro, we get
offensive
paid
line.
Mannings.
The Bucks and Jags traded. Right? Is that what I'm seeing?
I don't think so. Did they?
Trade Jags Bucks 27th overall. Jags got 27th overall. The Bucks receive. Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, that already happened. That's
Oh,
what I was
okay.
saying earlier. The Jags
Oh, and so
traded
Jags.
off.
I see.
So the Jags traded back in. So when I was saying one of those teams would trade back in, the Jags did. When I said that earlier, the Jaguars did it for.
I'm behind on this, man. It says I'm live, but
Yeah, it's the draft, man. They slow roll that information because the pick has been in for 7 minutes on my side.
oh, serious?
Yeah, so they've got the pick, bro.
Okay, I see pick is in now. Maybe I was
this
just behind. Okay.
This is the first year I haven't watched it.
Maybe they just showed it and they said, "Hey, this is why why the Jaguars are picking." Maybe that's what it was when I saw the trade.
Yeah, because the Bucks, that was probably 10 minutes ago they made that trade.
Okay.
I think it was when the Cowboys were on the clock. So the Jaguars, but we know the Jaguars aren't taking a quarterback. So whoever they're taking, they're taking for that 5th-year option. So my guess would be offense. Maybe a corner.
They've added a lot. Holy cow! This season, it shows who they've added. 2022, like there's a lot there. Both sides of the ball.
Yeah, well, they wasted a whole year.
Here's my question: What's an edge? What is this position? I've never heard of this position.
Edge is essentially a defensive lineman that can, to my understanding, they can turn into a linebacker.
Okay.
So they can hands down or they can stand up. I think if you think about like Chandler Jones as an edge.
Okay.
I'm trying to think who else. Maybe JJ Watt. But
bro, if you watch Myles Garrett sometimes, I feel like that guy could play linebacker at some point.
That dude could play a lot of things if he didn't have an ego issue. Him and Clowney. Both of those guys are guys who are only, and even the guy that the Cardinals took from Mississippi, all of those guys, incredible athletes, serious work ethic issues.
Really?
I mean, that's
I know Clowney had a work ethic issue, but I don't know about Myles Garrett.
There's been a lot of concerns about it, whether or not his head is in it, whether or not he's putting in the work.
See, he's from what I understand, he's pretty excited to be in Cleveland, but I don't know. I mean, that could be, that could be a whole big play or whatever, and just make people feel good about you being there. But I would be excited if I were him or Clowney playing opposite of the other. Like those two guys playing opposite of each other.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's huge. Like I'm surprised they didn't do more last year, but I don't know. What do I know? Maybe I just don't know football like I think I do. When those guys play opposite of each other on the line, like as an offense.
Dude, well, Chandler Jones and JJ Watt was supposed to be that. And unfortunately, they were both injured off and on different times. It just didn't happen. But I was hoping the Cardinals would take Chandler Jones one more year and see if they could get those two up together. But
yeah.
But I mean, Clowney and Watt in their heyday were on corners, and that didn't get the Texans anywhere. You have two of the greatest defensive linemen in NFL history. Nowhere.
Yeah.
So
I do see
inside linebacker.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's coming through my side right here, right now. So inside linebacker, man. So more defense. I think about these guys that get drafted. Like when you see them on draft day, it's different than seeing a guy out on the field
Mm-hmm.
Like you're seeing, you feel like you're seeing like a behind the scenes kind of thing, and like they talk about some of these guys, and it's just like, man, like they worked hard, they got to the NFL, and like now like some of these guys, you're like, he's gonna go buy his mom a house, like just seeing these guys, like what they work for. Now they're standing on the stage and like the first round of the draft, and like not trying to build up your ego here, but that would feel really good as a human being. You know what I mean? Like that's just
And you know what, man? That's where, like, as Christians, I think we've really got to pray for these guys, man, because at the end of the day, the inflation of your pride, the inflation of your ego, the inflation of temptations, man, at such a young age, your brain isn't even fully developed till you're 25 as a young man, right? And these guys
these
are
guys are
21,
20.
22, yeah. And so, man, like I tell people all the time, like I think Bryce Harper is a
I
something else,
just
a
saw
cancer. But
just saw like the Jags pick up Roger Goodell. Gave him a hug. He
that's
just picked
awesome.
him up. I'm like, that's cool. Like this guy's just enjoying this thing out here, man. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
But I think that, like, I look at Bryce Harper and I'm like, man, if I was given millions of dollars at 18 years old, right out of high school,
Yeah.
I'd I'd probably be a somewhat questionable human being as well.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That's one thing, like with LeBron, there's a lot of things that he does that I'm just like, okay, LeBron, chill out. But like I feel like he's somebody that's actually come out to be pretty decent for being thrown in the limelight in
Since
high
he was
school.
12.
I know. But
Ohio
even
State recruited him at 12 years old. Dude, like, there, say what you want to say about LeBron. And, I get it. I do. But
yeah.
when you talk about a person who has transformed the league, transformed lives, transformed communities, bro,
Hmm.
Michael Jordan is second tier. Might not
Yeah.
be as good a basketball player as Michael Jordan. That can be argued all day long. Michael Jordan did not change the game the way LeBron has. Michael Jordan did not change communities or the NBA the way LeBron has. Um, I don't think LeBron has the same heart Jordan had, but I don't think there's a day that Jordan would have outworked LeBron James. That,
Really?
that dude's a workhorse, man. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
think the only person who's outworked both of those guys, Kobe
Kobe
Bryant,
Bryant. Yeah.
who I think is the most overrated basketball player of all time. But
Yeah.
dude
Yeah.
at
You
least
said
worked for
you don't have to say that on every episode of the podcast.
it.
I think you said it last time too. I think so.
Sorry. I
No, I don't
missaid underrated.
care. Uh,
But I
oh
did say it
man.
last week too.
Yeah. The man, did you ever see that? You ever see that clip of so Kobe Bryant was on a late night show, whatever, and it was like you answer this tough question or eat this disgusting thing. And he had to eat a cow's tongue, raw cow's tongue. And the question was asked, rate these basketball players, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Kobe Bryant. And Kobe's like, well, I think you all know what I think. So he's like, but he said something about I don't want to say it out loud or something like that. And so he's just like, I'm gonna take a bite out of this tongue right here. And he was like literally getting ready to. And then he just stops, he goes, I can't eat this thing. He's like, me, Jordan, LeBron. He's like, I'm the best player that's ever played the game.
I believe he genuinely believed that.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was just it's a really interesting clip. He's like, because I think he says something about, I know you guys are gonna talk after this, but, and then he just said it and he's like, I'm not eating this.
I don't think LeBron necessarily thinks he's the greatest player of all time. Not nearly as
Really?
much as Kobe Bryant did.
Yeah, you're probably
LeBron's
right.
never tried to bite into the Michael Jordan stuff.
But
Kobe's
is that
he
but is
said he
that
was the
because
greatest
he
player
based
numerous times.
Yeah, but do you think LeBron is like, I know I'm the best, so I'm not even going to talk about it? Or do you think it's because he knows he's or what? He
I think LeBron's a student of the game and knows the game's different and there's no comparison. He
Yeah.
knows he knows that any year that he played, he was the best player in the NBA by far. He was better than Kobe any year. He's better than Steph Curry. He's better than Giannis. You know, he's
I
just the best
think
player in the NBA every year he's been in the NBA.
I think Steph Curry might be one of the most overrated NBA players ever. I think so.
I think Steph Curry is
He's a good player. I don't think he's an MVP.
somehow the most overrated and the most underrated at the same time. Because he's overrated because everyone talks about him being one of the greatest ball players right now. I think that's a little overrated. He's underrated because he is that team. Like he is the leader of that team. He is the guy who brings the ball down and sets up the plays.
Hmm.
He is the John Stockton of that team. And when you think about like he does things John Stockton couldn't do, and scoring and facilitating and things like that, man, I think he is the most valuable player to his team in the NBA. But I think he's overrated to be. I don't think he's a top 5, 10 player.
Is MVP, is that most valuable player in the NBA, or is that most valuable player to your team in the NBA? You see what I'm asking?
Look at it. I think it's the most valuable player in the NBA.
That's what I think.
But I think that he is. There's no player. Him and Giannis are probably the two players, and I think Giannis is somewhat overrated. I think again, same kind of light. I think both of them are just as important to their teams, but there's very few people. They're talking about trading Anthony Davis from the
Yeah.
Lakers.
Mhm.
Westbrook's been around quite a bit. LeBron's been around quite a bit. When you look at these guys, and Devin Booker might fall in the same category as some of these guys, right? He's somewhat overrated, somewhat underrated. There's not a lot of guys that are as valuable to the team as Curry and Giannis. Curry and Giannis lead those teams. Those teams are bottom barrel teams. Those teams
Yeah.
are the Cavaliers when LeBron left. Harden's left 3 teams, and the teams haven't been that much worse than they were.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that Russell Westbrook is an amazing basketball player that doesn't put the work in. He feels like, at least I feel like he's just kind of coasting on, like, I don't want to say natural talent, but he's I feel like he's one of those that if he played his heart out, he could be a top 5 somewhere.
I think the
Like
opposite.
in somebody's top 5 NBA all time, he would be there if he played hard like that. I think
I think he's the most underrated player. I think there's not a player more that has put in more work and more effort and more commitment than a Westbrook to get, because no one's ever said they've outworked him. He's never been on a team where they said they've outworked him.
Really?
There's never
Okay.
been a team that says he doesn't show up night in and night out. And obviously, somehow this last year with the Lakers, he went from a decent shooter to a terrible shooter. So I don't know what's going on.
He did terrible this year with the shot. Oh man.
And he's got an attitude problem now where he's like playing victim to Westbrook. I'm not taking my kids. You've made it embarrassing for my kids to come because you're calling me Westbrook. Like, come on, man. Like, don't be so soft. But
Yeah.
But this is a guy that's been bounced around, man. He was done dirty by the Rockets, done dirty by the Thunder. You know, you're talking about a guy that when you've got a guy that sets the record for most triple doubles, I don't know how people can claim he's selfish.
That's a good point. I wouldn't say that he's selfish either, but I feel like he's right now, he doesn't. This last year, watching a few Lakers games, it just felt like he was just like,
I don't think he fit in with the Lakers. I don't think he knew what he was supposed to do.
Well, and I think what's happened with the Lakers this year is what happened with the Cavs that one year where they're like, we're just going to build an all-star team, which I don't know how that ever happened. Being a Cavs fan, the hype around that was amazing. You had LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Kevin Love, you had Derrick Rose, you had what's the short, Isaiah Thomas, like all these guys that like came. You're like, oh, this is like this will be the NBA East All-Star team, you know, like That's what it felt, and it was so amazing. And then they were so bad because they were all stars, and that's the problem. And I feel like that same sort of thing happened in LA. They all felt like they were good enough to be the number one guy on a team, and so then when they didn't get that, somewhere along the line, just everything broke down. That's what
Well,
it seems like. They also had a lot of injuries.
I think the Lakers they also have three guys that they're all too similar in the fact that I mean you got three guys who at any point could put up a triple double between Davis, LeBron, and Westbrook. And now so you got who do you pass to? Who passes it? Who catches it? Who shoots it? Who
Yeah.
does what? Who goes for the rebound? You can't have all three chasing rebounds. And so you have three guys that are used to being the foundation of their team. And the one guy who's got experience in balancing those things out is LeBron James. And I think that Davis and Westbrook just never had the opportunity to figure that out. Davis is a little easier. You put him as a big, but he really is a power forward. But you put him
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
center, and James can offset him. But when you've got James running small forward, and you've got you're having to put Westbrook at the 1 and 2, I think it's just confusing.
Westbrook's always been a one, though,
It
hasn't he?
is, yeah, but you're talking about a LeBron who's a one. When you think about LeBron, like, yeah,
Yeah.
LeBron's small forward, but like,
LeBron,
it,
so LeBron
it's
winning championships, like he was always the one for Miami when they won. He was the one for the Cavs when the Cavs won. He plays every position, that guy.
yeah, yeah, and him and Kyrie worked mostly because Kyrie took a submissive role.
He was the shooting guard on that team.
Kyrie was passing, and Kyrie was setting him up, and he would take the shots when he needed to when the plays called for it. But when you look at how much Kyrie supported LeBron, it's a lot. I don't know that
Le-
LeBron's ever actually had to support a team.
LeBron, no, but LeBron and Kyrie could have been the best duo in the NBA if they'd have stuck together. But I think Kyrie said he didn't want to be a number two player. He wanted to be number one, and that's what ended up happening there. And he went to Boston, right? Or
Yeah,
something like that.
he's never been a number one.
Never been,
Still
and
to
he's
this moment.
never been the same player either. Him and LeBron were amazing together. That's why, and I think that's part of. I mean, and you had Love that was like this third player in Cleveland, and like he just stood in the corner and shot threes all day. That's all Love
He
did.
and Irving's got some attitude issues, right? Like he's
Yeah.
struggled.
Oh yeah. Oh
So who knows where he'll be next year with the Nets if they continue in with the Nets or where that's going to go. Like that whole thing's a mess.
yeah. Well, now they're saying too, like, well, if Kyrie would have just got his vaccine, he'd have been able to play with the team all year, and that could have changed how the year ended for him. They didn't mesh as well, and yeah, sure they made the playoffs, but if he'd have played with them all season, and yeah, somebody tweeted, they're like, is the reason that the Nets didn't win this year was because Kyrie didn't get the vaccine? And I'm like, you can't connect those two things. Like, and I'm like, oh, I get it because he would have played with the team. I'm like, so you're telling me the vaccine? Like, that's where I was at. Was like he
Yeah,
had to get the
I, I
vaccine to
think
like
I
win,
think
but they made the connection. Then eventually, I was like, okay, I get what you're saying. I
I
was
think
so
there's some
thrown
truth to
off
that,
by
but
it.
I think it's wrong as well. I don't think it was the continuity of the team as much as it was, bro. Durant carried that team. Durant's back hurt by the end
Yeah,
of the season. Like he
Durant,
carried that
yeah.
team, put up some 40, 50-point games. That dude was exhausted by the end of the season. And that's not a when you look at Durant's body, that's not a LeBron
That's
body, man. That's not a Westbrook body.
yeah, which
That's
is what I was gonna say about LeBron. LeBron, that guy has carried teams in and out. Like he's played in how many finals in a row, and how many of those finals went to 7 games, and like all that. Like that guy, his endurance, his seasonal endurance is unmatched, in my opinion.
yeah,
Unmatched.
yeah. Dude, the
Patriots.
Chiefs just threw fast. So the Patriots got an offensive lineman, and the Chiefs just went with a defensive lineman. So if the
Oh my
Bengals don't
goodness.
trade, it looks like it's the Vikings' only chance to take Malik Willis because you know the
So
Bengals are about to.
Yeah, the Patriots pick just came through on my screen a second ago. So
Yeah,
you're telling me the Chiefs already picked as well.
yeah. Chiefs went fast. Like there wasn't even a minute on the clock. Now it says the Bengals pick is in.
Is
I
it
got a
really?
few.
So the Bengals didn't trade.
Looks like they haven't. So
They're still talking about the Patriots pick here. We're on.
yeah, I'm
I
guessing
thought I
NFL
was
just went quiet
live,
for these
but
picks. Yeah, I had to move to ESPN and watch on the app, which I hate to support ESPN, but
right.
I
Yeah.
couldn't
See,
get
right now
anything
I've
to
got
NFL.
Chiefs pick. Is it? Yeah, they're announcing the Chiefs pick now. But
Yeah,
man,
George Carlo,
that's
Karlaftis.
crazy. This whole quarter, man, this is insane.
Dude, listen to this. Like, and I don't usually pay attention to colleges, but this is crazy. So Cincinnati, third pick. NC State, sixth pick. You got your typical Ohio State, USC, Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Boston College, 17th pick. Northern Iowa, 19th pick. Pittsburgh, 20th pick. Tulsa, 24th pick. Iowa, 25th. Utah, 27th. Chattanooga, 29th
Chattanooga,
pick.
baby.
Purdue, 30th. Like, there's like if Malik Willis gets in at Liberty University, like this has been a win for small programs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But Georgia, man, Georgia's got only two. I thought it was four, but only two. All right. Who the
Yeah,
Bears
but
want to pick?
see, and I think that whole like it feels like this whole thing where uh the college playoff has really introduced a lot of like, hey, the underrated guys can still win. Um the first year that the college playoff happened, I always say this. The first year the college playoff happened, right? It was Ohio State won it, right? There was a big talk about, do you put Ohio State in, or was it Oklahoma? I can't remember. Anyway, Ohio State almost didn't get in to that college football playoff, that first one. They ended up winning, which helped and hurt the entire like playoff thing that has been talked about. It helped and hurt it. It helped it because it was like, yes, see, we do need a playoff. But it also hurt it because then it was like, so you're telling me we've needed a playoff this entire time. You're telling me that essentially we almost put this team at number 5 and they still won the whole thing. So at this point, why are we sitting here at 4 teams? Which at the beginning I said you need at least 8. When they said 4, I was like, that's wrong. You need at least 8 in my opinion, but
Yeah, I think if you're gonna go one game, you go 16.
yeah. I
I,
mean, that's what
you go.
that's
I don't know how many conferences there are, but I'd say small or big. If it's a D1, every conference gets a team.
yeah. Yeah, and they there's been a lot of talk about how to do that. If you do 16, you've got the major conferences, you got some minors, and then some of the big conferences. I think there's 4, is there 4 big conferences? Those 4, the what are those called? Oh, they're called like, I can't remember what they're called. They're called something special. The 4 major conferences, and each one of those gets like, you get the championship game decides who gets in, and then there's an at large from each of those conferences. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes that'll be the runner up of the championship game, and sometimes that might not be based on wins and losses and all that kind of.
Yep.
It was like this real interesting thing of like what 16 could look like. But I was like, if you at least start with 8, that's a great start in my opinion. When they said 4, I was like, that doesn't seem like that. Just it just to me seemed like, why have a tournament at all? To me, a tournament is
Yeah.
like, listen, when college basketball, I get it's a different sport, understand it. 68 teams, and you're like, well, we'll make 4 for football. I'm like, okay, dude, come on.
Yeah. I think it comes down to the fact that bowl games make too much money,
Yeah,
and when you're
dude.
cutting out bowl games, you got a problem.
Yeah.
And I think the greed of the NCAA is what it comes down to. And we'll see what happens now that they got to, now that there's some places saying you got to pay players. We'll see what happens with that because that could.
Oh, in college.
I think that ends up just crashing the NFL potentially because of its impact. So, way off topic. So the other day I ordered from this pizza place called Marco's Pizza.
Ah, yes.
Have you ever had crustless pizza?
I mean, I've had pizza that's like thin crust and the pizza
No.
goes like to the edge.
No, there's no crust. It's in a bowl. Yeah.
Okay.
So I go to order pizza and I see they got pizza bowls. And then, dude, they got a Philly cheesesteak pizza bowl. That is
Okay.
probably one of the best things I've ever eaten in my life.
A pizza bowl.
Pizza bowl.
Pizza bowl.
I'm curious what you get if you Google it because I haven't. Like, literally never heard of it. But I'm one of those people, like, when I go to restaurants.
I feel like this would be great. This is a great idea.
Pizza bowl?
Pizza bowl.
Bro, it's genius. It's delicious.
So here's one I see right
I
now.
promise you.
There's a picture of one I see right now where they literally made like, okay, so like a taco salad where you take like the shell, like a taco shell, and make it the bowl. There's one where they did that with a crust. They made the crust like into a bowl and then put the pizza inside. That looks really good. Oh yeah, right here, Marco's Pizza Bowl. So it's basically casserole.
Yeah, pretty. I mean, if you go simplify it like that, but yeah, pretty much.
It literally says no crust.
Dude, it was. I mean,
there's one here with pineapple in it.
Yeah, winter chicken dinner. Pineapple's delicious.
Dinner.
Pineapple, oranges, apples, all fruits belong on pizza.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting around to this pineapple thing.
Yeah, peaches. Peaches on pizza, man. Try it. Peaches and chicken. On dude.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
All right. Bengals took a safety. So the Vikings are the only chance Malik Willis gets drafted in the first round.
And they've got Cousins, so they might not.
But they've got Cousins, so they might. I mean, you literally just gave the reason for both sides.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like that's the thing that like people talk about with Kirk Cousins. They say the same thing about Baker is like it's the same discussion, which some people think, dude, he's amazing and he can play for a team and he could win a Super Bowl with a team. And then there's other people that are like, this guy's bad. Get him out of your city. Get him out of your team. Like it's that same discussion I think that Baker kind of has, that there's people that believe in him, but there's also people that are like, he's just bad. I don't want anything around Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, when he's got a chip on his shoulder, though, is like.
I'm reading that the Vikings turned down several trade offers, and they have decided to pick a safety. So Malik Willis will, if this actually happens, Malik Willis will not be chosen.
So then what you do is if you're Tampa Bay, do you draft him and trade him?
I mean, you only
with
got
the
Tom Brady another year or two anyways.
Yeah, so maybe he sits under Tom Brady then.
I mean, if you're right now.
Well, Minnesota's also got the second pick of the second round.
Yeah, so the Vikings got a lot of leeway. Titans aren't doing it. Giants might take a quarterback, but I don't know how they feel about Jones. Texans, I mean, is that where he ends up? He's got some similarities to Watson.
Yeah, because Texans need a quarterback, huh?
I mean, Texans need a
lot of stuff.
Team, but yeah.
Listen, the Browns do too. This was really weird. I was so the Browns owner owns like Flying J and Pilot, the gas stations and everything. That's where he came into his money or whatever. And I was at the one that's like 15 minutes from our house. And all at once, here walks Mr. Haslam through the pilot.
Wow.
And I'm like, bro, what in the world? And at first it looked like him. He's real tall, by the way, but at first it looked like him. He had his mask on or whatever. And there was a guy in a suit that was standing right next to him. And I'm like, okay, it looks like him. I'm pretty sure that's him. And then he had to take his mask off for something and do whatever. And he took his mask off and I went, oh. And I was like, do I go tell him to sell the team? Like, not to me, but to anybody else? Like, do I go tell him that? Or what do I say? You know,
You should have went and made an offer.
I got $10 in my pocket, dude.
You should say, hey, man, how bad do you want to see the Browns win? And if he goes badly, say, awesome.
I'm in the market for, I'm in the market for a house, but I will put that on hold if you will give me the Browns. Oh, man, I'm just like,
I'll buy the house and give it to you if you'll give me the Browns.
yeah, there you go. Man, like, I was just, it was pretty funny though, because like, he's standing there and you can tell he's trying to get business done, whatever. He's there with some other guy that's in a suit, which I don't know if is that a bodyguard? Is that a businessman, like kind of thing? Like, I don't know what that,
Probably
is
a
that somebody
bodyguard.
just probably, but like, it was funny because then like he was in the subway that's inside the gas station there. And he came out into the main gas station area and his buddy follows him. But then this other guy that's in like, he's got Ohio State t-shirt on and like the athletic pants or what athletic pants. He like comes out and he's like, he's just and you could tell he was like, he knew who Haslam was, who this guy was, and he was just gonna follow him through the gas station.
Fair enough.
I was like, yeah, that's all right, I guess. But it was really cool seeing him. I was like, I kind of wanted to take a picture, and I'm like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, no one takes pictures of losers, man.
I
Take
know,
pictures of
man.
winners.
I know. The pick is in for the Vikings, huh?
Yeah,
I don't have it on my screen yet.
Yeah, I've had it for a couple minutes. Pick is in, but no pick.
I mean, they do have the, like I said, that second pick of the second round. Maybe they're hoping that Tampa Bay doesn't take him. I don't know.
No matter
I feel
what,
like
there's two or three strong quarterbacks left. I mean, it could be the point where they don't care which of those two or three they get.
Yeah, that's true too.
And there will be less chaos with Kirk Cousins if they take a second round pick quarterback only 2 picks later, but a second round instead of first round.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's what they're banking on. I don't know. I feel like if you're Tampa Bay, that might be a smart pick there.
I feel like if you're Tampa, it's a smart pick. However, here's the problem with that. You're trying to win now. You're filling holes now. You're filling holes to win a Super Bowl with Tom Brady.
But
and you know that
they're there. They just won. They just won 2 seasons ago. They're already there, right? Like
yeah,
they've
you still have needs,
right? Which can be filled with some trades rather than draft picks. I feel like you're a team that needs veterans. If you're going to win now, you're going to need veterans.
Depends on what they need. I mean, you got these safeties and stuff pulling up and just smoking people in their first seasons.
Yeah, that's true.
So, especially if you're looking for somebody that deepens your bench or.
I don't know what's going on, what they're filming here, but they've got Packers fans, Vikings fans, Patriots fans, all jumping around, dancing together, hanging out. And I feel like that's like the guys in the back row that found the bar early.
Oh, yeah.
Like, your Vikings fans and Packers fans are hanging together. Listen, the draft was last year, it was in Cleveland, and I'm so angry I didn't go. I texted a friend like the day before, and I was like, bro, do you want to go? And he's like, no, I can't go. I'm like, I don't know who I'm going to go with then.
Yeah. Dude, if it comes anywhere near like Dallas or Phoenix, like I'm there.
He's announcing the pick here on my screen. Do you have it on yours yet?
Yeah, it's already. They've taken the Klein, the safety. So
what? What's this draft?
One quarterback, man.
It's like 90% of it was, maybe not 90%, but a lot of it was just defense.
One quarterback. I don't know that at least that I can recall, and obviously I don't remember every NFL draft, but I have watched every NFL draft. This is the first one I haven't watched live in the past decade or so. And I don't think I can remember a first round that didn't have 2 or more quarterbacks. Heck, dude, the past decade has been two or more in the first 5 picks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the Browns have always picked the quarterback for the last 18 years. So they've always had a top 5 pick. So there you go.
There you go.
That's always been
There
one.
you
And I'm sure sometimes we've drafted 2 just to be safe, just to ruin 2 careers.
Like-
You know what? We'll go out
like the
swinging.
Redskins.
Man, dude. Oh.
You take Kirk Cousins and RG3, and you're like, one's my guy, one's the guy I had to pick. Oh man,
Dude, RG3, talk about a little bit of, I don't want to say a bust because he got hurt, but like, oh, I wish he would have done so much better in the NFL. I was kind of rooting for
Yeah.
that guy.
I'm
And well,
an RG3 as a person fan, but I think he went into the NFL a little too hyped up on his own self.
well, everybody was used to, was that the same year as Cam Newton? No, it was Cam Newton was before that.
No, RG3 was oh man, it was let's see.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna look that up real quick.
Yeah, 2012. 2012 draft was Andrew Luck. That's who it was. Andrew Luck was taken number 1. RG3 was taken number 2. Ryan Tannehill was taken number 8. Who's still in the NFL, by the way.
Yeah, Cam Newton was 2011.
22 was Brandon Whedon, Cleveland Browns.
What
One of their
what?
416
Oh,
quarterbacks.
that was one of the worst picks yet. This guy's 26 years old, playing football at Oklahoma, hardly making a stat line, and we're like, we'll take him first.
No one can say he wasn't mature. I mean, come on, man. You give him the benefit of the doubt. At least they took a mature quarterback.
I'd rather have more talent, please.
So the Panthers, when they took Chris Weinke at 30 years old.
There's still a chance for me. I'm 32. Let me get in next year's draft real quick.
you might want to get to work, man.
I know, right? I actually couldn't play football in school because I had a kidney transplant when I was 11, and they put that kidney right in your stomach, right in the front.
Oh, wow!
And they're like, well, you can't play football, obviously, because you get tackled. That's where they're going to tackle you. They're going to hit you right in the helmet and the shoulder pads right in the gut. And so I couldn't play football. So I'm like, can I be a water boy? They're like, well, yeah, you can be a water boy all day. Why is this little skinny kid? And I'm like, they're like, yep, you got to carry all 6 of these huge water bottles. 6th grade little tiny kid running out on the field. It's like it was my time to shine because I'm the water boy running out on the field. I'm like, I hated that part, man. I hated that part.
That's funny.
Running out on the field. I hated it. Yeah, that's all right. And then come senior year, finally, I asked the doctor, I'm like, well, can I be a kicker? He's like, well, yeah, sure, but you might still get hit. I'm like, listen, if I get hit, that's a good thing for my team. That means we move forward. The thing was, I went to a high school at first, like the first couple of years of high school. I went to a high school, played soccer. I was allowed to play soccer. Then I went to a different high school, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be a kicker. I played high school soccer. Like my legs were pretty strong. I felt like I could be a good kicker. I've always liked to be a kicker too. And then come to find out, the school that I went to, they had a kid that used to play soccer. This was their kicker. Then was actually a kid that used to play soccer and had a real good leg. And they're like, oh yeah, he doesn't play like football either. He played soccer. He doesn't want to get tackled. He's just kicking. I'm like, so you're telling me at this small school where our whole team had maybe 60 kids on it, like we were a small, that's our entire varsity team. Like I'm going up against another kid that also is only a kicker. That feels like a waste of my time. Not like even if I get the position over him, I'm gonna still look like a bad guy for just coming in and taking his spot. Like everybody liked him already. Like whatever.
Yeah, but you're the guy with the kidney in his belly.
Right, bro.
You're
I
like
have
the
4.
you're like the Make-A-Wish kid, man. No one's gonna be upset at you.
He's got to play at least once, guys. That's funny.
Man, that sucked. It looks like Malik Willis was in the green room all night
Oh
to go
no!
undrafted.
Wow. So then they'll start picking again tomorrow, right?
Yep. They'll do 2 and 3
Wow.
tomorrow, and then 4 through 7 Saturday. So
How devastating would that be, man? Because like I was saying earlier, like
Pretty.
you think about these guys and they like get drafted and they walk up on the stage and like
Yep.
being a quarterback that's hyped as being the best quarterback in the draft, you're not even up there on day one. That's
Yep.
heartbreak, man. That's heartbreak right there.
Yeah. And do you guys sit all day tomorrow till I think it's 7:00? 7:00 Eastern before they start second?
Bro, I would just not show up tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
exactly.
I feel like that would be that big. That would be that big of a disappointment today that if I were him, I just
100%.
wouldn't even show up tomorrow. I wouldn't even show up.
Bro, I'd have
I'm
such
going
an ego.
home.
Yeah, I'd have such an ego.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to be drafted.
Yep, I'm going
I'd
home.
be like, you know what? Don't even draft me. I'm
Yeah.
embarrassed. You know what? Somebody's got to sign me now.
Like, I feel
I
like
gotta
it
take
wouldn't
the
even
power
be.
back.
Like, I don't know that it would even be embarrassing. It would just feel like, to me, it would feel like such a letdown.
But Zach, yes,
Like
it's a
sad,
letdown.
like
Millions of
sadness. But I don't
people
know that I'd
watch
be
you millions of people watch you on ESPN and NFL, and they watch you not get picked. They watch you sitting there by yourself. They watch you sitting there with your family and get passed and passed and passed. Dude, you could have killer, just really solid ego, and that's got to be tough. 32 picks.
Yeah,
in the
if
first
you've got the
round,
ego,
and you
if
were
you've got
past
that
32.
ego.
But even if you
Yeah.
don't, even if you have a really solid foundation and your ego is strong, or you don't have ego trips, to be passed over 32 times on national television when you're
Yeah.
one of only a couple guys left in this room, and people were talking about you being drafted top 5.
Yeah, right.
Everybody had
Like-
you as the number 1 quarterback, and you weren't even taken the first round. But I would be sitting.
I don't know. I feel like me, I'm not saying I'm not an egotistical guy. I'm not trying to play that off here. I feel like I would be more sad than embarrassed.
Yeah, I'd be embarrassed, especially as you get those last few picks and you just keep getting passed over, and they're panning to you. Yeah, dude, I'd have walked out. I'd have probably walked out like, I don't remember who did that, but I probably would have walked out like 27th, 28th. Like, I'd have been like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, but there's still that hope there, though.
Yeah, but you know some team would have called you if there was hope, and you're looking at who those teams are, and you're like, man, no one's like.
Those last picks came in quick too.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going on a bathroom break. You know what? I didn't go home. I went to the bathroom.
Yeah, where's he from? I'm going back to Kansas, please, because I don't even want to be here anymore. You call me when you're ready to draft me, and I will be there. But until then, I'm at home. I'm catching a flight. It's quarter till midnight here. I'm catching a flight home. Sorry, I will be going home tonight. That would be me.
Dude, yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's regardless of what it is. I think either way, that's tough, man. And if he handles it tomorrow in class, I think he says a lot about him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Do you think that would increase a chance of him going quicker if he showed up tomorrow?
I don't think so. I think at this point, someone's told him they're taking him. Either the Bucks have called him and said, "Hey, I'm taking you," or the Vikings have said, "Hey, if the Bucks don't take you, we're taking you," or the Panthers are saying, "Hey, we're trading up. We're figuring this out. We're going to take," like, somebody's talking to him and is in his ear. There's going to be a mad rush, I think, to take him tomorrow.
Tampa Bay's got a good spot right now because they could totally draft him and let him sit under Tom Brady for a year or two. They also have some give that anybody who wants a quarterback right now can get him at the second round. Like people were probably
Well, they also
contacting
drafted a
Tampa
second round
Bay with
pick
like the
last year.
last, yeah. I
The
mean, people
Bucks
were
did.
probably already contacting Tampa Bay before the first round was over.
Yeah, because the Bucks took
Had to
Kyle
be.
Trask last year, and that was in the second round. So they have, I don't know if they'd grab another second round pick unless, I mean, he was only a rookie last year, but unless he was terrible. So, and I don't know. Let's see, what's the Vikings? Minnesota. Oh, it's I already know who it is. It's Mannion. Mannion is their backup.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty
I
rough
I
backup.
used to be a Vikings fan because I was one of those where like I had my team and then I also picked another team to watch that was in the other like conference. So like in
Okay.
baseball
Yeah.
I had my Indians and then I also had another team in the NL. Now that was harder for me to pick because I really had no teams that I liked. And then I picked the Expos and then they're like, oh, we're leaving Montreal. Like,
Bye bye.
okay. Yeah, so uh my NFL team was actually the Vikings, and the year I started really paying attention to them was the year before they got Adrian Peterson. And then they
Uh
got
huh.
Adrian Peterson, and I'm like, yeah, these Vikings are awesome, and I loved them. And I had like Adrian Peterson action figures, like the McFarlane toys or whatever. I had a
Yep.
bunch of those. I had Vikings helmets. I was more of a Vikings fan than Browns fan. Of course, that was the year where the Browns would draft a new quarterback every year and a new coach every 2 years, and that was awesome because we had some good teams, some good coaches, and they were like, "No, thank you. See you later." And then they got Hugh Jackson, who I was like, "Okay, this guy's bad. He went 1-15. Why does he still have a job?" And they're like, we'll keep him around. Why? And then he goes 0-16, and they're still like, we're gonna keep him around again. You're kidding me. Like I am so frustrated with the Browns. But anyway, I was a Vikings fan for years, and I haven't paid attention to the Vikings in a while now. But I don't know. Kirk Cousins, I've always thought was a, a good enough quarterback to be a starter there, but was he the guy for the job? Probably not. So what the Vikings need to do is trade for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. I don't think he does any better than Kirk Cousins, but I mean, who knows?
Coworker of mine always said that Baker Mayfield was too short. That was his. That's why he couldn't play because he's too short. And I'm like, he's not that short. He should be better than a short guy.
How many playoffs has Russell Wilson been to?
Yeah, right, right.
Drew
Short
Brees.
quarterbacks. Yep,
They're both shorter
dude.
than Baker.
My dad was like, Josh Allen is way bigger than Baker Mayfield. We looked it up. I think Baker Mayfield's only 3 inches shorter than Josh Allen. I think.
Yeah,
Which
but
Josh
next to each
Allen's
other,
a
dude.
big boy.
Yeah, next to each other. Josh Allen. Josh Josh Allen, I think 6'5" and like 250.
He's 6'5". I just looked it up. Josh Allen's 6'5".
He's got to be like 250.
Doesn't say what he weighs. Why doesn't
And
it say what he weighs?
Baker's
It just
like
says his stuff.
17 pounds,
Baker's 6'1". Yeah, Baker's
supposedly. I've also been next to Kyler Murray, and I promise you Kyler Murray's not 6 foot. So
well, Baker is 215. This is what Wikipedia says. I should probably go to the NFL website and check it
yeah.
out.
That's with him having stilts on and wet clothes.
Josh Allen, 237. I feels like that's in his height. Josh Allen is like what you want a quarterback to be. Weight and height wise, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He's got the beef, he's got the height, he's got the athleticism because he's not too tall. Ben Roethlisberger was too tall. That guy watching him run was kind of fun. Here you go. This is an interesting fact of mine, or I shouldn't. Well, not fact. It's an opinion. But The biggest bust in NFL history, Trent Richardson.
I don't know about that, man. I mean, I get it.
Who is
but
then?
Ricky Williams.
Really?
They traded 7 draft picks to get him. Like, just on being drafted alone, Trent Richardson's up there. Ryan Leaf's up there. There's a bunch of them. But for what the Saints paid to get Ricky Williams, and that dude, man, fighting
Trent Richardson was 1 overall, right? Wasn't Trent Richardson 1 overall?
I thought he was 2, but he was definitely 1 or 2.
So did you know that Peyton Manning, his longest career rush is longer than Trent Richardson's career long rush?
I mean, Trent Richardson's at least still playing football, though. So
where?
We just have that in Football Americano de Mexico. He plays for Chihuahua.
Football Americano. Yeah. Cadios de Chihuahua.
You're Spanish. So.
I'm not Spanish. I'm bad at Spanish. This guy's a year younger than me, by the way. He's 31.
Like you said, you still got time. You can at least play in Mexico. He was the 3rd overall pick.
3rd overall pick. Considered the top running back prospect for 2012 draft. Was considered to some as the best running back prospect since Adrian Peterson. During his second season, his production saw a massive decline from the Browns.
Here you go.
Played on the Browns.
Here's some of the biggest NFL busts. All right, and
Okay,
you say whether or not you think Trent Richardson is a bigger bust. Matt Leinart.
Yeah. Okay. He was a bust.
He only started 17 games in his NFL career, so that's pretty rough. Josh Rosen, drafted number 10 to the Cardinals. I don't think he started more than 3 games.
Jamarcus Russell was a pretty big one too.
Jamarcus Russell is going to be on the system, sure. Another Browns player, Justin Gilbert.
Yeah.
In 2014.
He was like drafted and then you never heard about him after that.
Yep. Number 5 overall pick to the Jaguars, Justin Blackmon from Oklahoma State. That dude was talented, but he got suspended, I believe.
And then just probably never made a return, huh?
Yeah. Trent Richardson, they got on this list at 14.
Oh.
Keith Schuler, they got ahead of him. Vernon Golston, who the Jets took. Talk about a team that's been terrible. Johnny Manziel. So Browns are on here at least 4 times. Johnny Manziel.
Bro, listen, there was one year where they showed the Browns where their last 7 I think it was a draft with like their last 7 first-round picks were still not a part of the team. Yeah. Like none of their first-round draft picks over the last 7 years were at all a part of their team anymore. I'm like, that's just terrible. That's a terrible stat.
So top 3 are all quarterbacks. Keely Smith, Oregon, 1999 to the Bengals, number 3.
I thought he did okay.
He only started 17 games in his NFL career, went 3-14, 5 touchdowns, 13 interceptions.
Really?
And no one picked him up after the Bengals cut him.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. There's a list that I'm looking at, by the way, that counts down like the top 16 or something like that. And number 5 on this list is almost every quarterback Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, man. Fair enough.
That's really funny.
Number 2 is Ryan Leaf.
Okay.
Part of that, he went to prison. And then number 1 is Jamarcus Russell. Which, I mean, I don't know that I don't know that you get worse than Jamarcus Russell. I
David
think that's
Carr
fair.
is a big one too. I think David
You
Carr
know
had a
what though?
bad system. He had a bad
Yes.
system. But he was also wasn't he the quarterback that was drafted the year the Texans came into the league? So
Yep.
they were a brand new team. There's not going to be much
Terrible
success
offensive
there.
line.
Although
Yeah.
I'll give switching sports, I will give the Las Vegas Knights credit. They were an expansion team and won the championship within 2 years, right?
Well, the Panthers went to the NFC Championship within 2-3 years with Jake Delhomme as
Was it?
quarterback.
Okay. Well, there you
Yeah, they
go.
did a pretty good job. Just in case you needed a reminder that the Browns' issues are deep. Tim Couch is also on the list.
Yes, but he got injured pretty badly and never came back. And that's that issue. There was huge talk that if like he never got hurt, he was gonna be like one of the biggest like names ever in the NFL. That was tough. That was tough when he got hurt because that was the year the Browns came back. He was the number one draft for the Browns when the Browns came back.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got hurt, and that was just over. The Browns, listen, it took LeBron James to get rid of the Cleveland curse. But somehow it came back right after that. Because what happened was right after the Cavs won the finals, the Indians were in the World Series up 3-1 and lost. The Cleveland curse was like on a vacation and then came back like 2 months later and was like, "Oh, I'm back. What up?" That was bad. That was bad.
This guy wrote an article. He said 10 biggest draft busts in Cleveland Browns history. He's like, unfortunately, I had to go through hundreds of bad draft picks.
Because there's so many actually. Like it's not like you can just go, okay, there's 5 guys that were really bad draft picks, put them in a top 5 list. It's yeah.
He goes, there have been 10 general managers since 1999. There have been 12 head coaches, 3 principal owners since 1999.
Look at the number of quarterbacks.
Numerous executives in player personnel decisions. So number 10, Mike Phipps. I don't know who that is.
I was going to say, I don't even know who that is.
1970, that's why.
Oh, okay.
William Green, which is a 2002 first-round pick.
Wait, what? William Green. Was that the guy that played for the Ravens and then No. These are draft picks, right? William Green. Wait a minute. Hold on.
He was a Boston College player that was suspended for drugs and alcohol, and they picked him up anyways.
Yeah.
Number 8, and no shock to you, would be Brandon Weeden. Number 7, same year, 1973, they selected 16th and 22nd, Steve Holden and Pete Adams. Neither of those two went on to do anything. Oh, I forgot about this guy, Brady Quinn.
Brady Quinn. Oh, that I don't know. I think that guy's ego was too big, and it all just went downhill. That's what I think.
Courtney Brown, the number 1 pick in 2000.
Yeah, Courtney Brown. He was really good. He actually was good for like 2 years, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
He only played 1 full season. It was his rookie year, and he only had 4.5 sacks.
He had a lot of hype around him.
Yeah. Number 3 was Justin Gilbert, the cornerback, first round, 8th pick.
Cornerback. Quarterback or corner?
Corner.
Yeah. Yeah, there was hype around him.
Johnny Manziel got the number 1 biggest bust for the Cleveland Browns.
That guy again had too much. He had too much of an ego, and it hurt him too bad. DeShone Kizer, that guy did not perform. That guy then went on. He was drafted by the Browns. I don't know what overall, but he was drafted by the Browns.
2nd round, I believe.
Really?
Was he first round?
I thought he was early first round.
I thought he was the guy that some people hyped up, and he just didn't.
Second round of the 2017 draft. Yeah, second round.
Yeah,
He went
second
on to
round
be
by
like he was. We put our faith in him for a year, and it was bad. Bad. Then he went to the Packers.
He was an Ohio kid.
Yeah, he was a
Joe
backup. He went to Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame. Yeah, he was Notre Dame. Like he's 6'4", 235.
But bro,
That's good.
In his defense,
he played for the Browns.
They had 5,000 other quarterbacks, so it's not like he's the only one to fail.
Have you seen the Browns quarterback?
He beat out Brock Osweiler to be a starter.
Brock Osweiler.
He's the 6'9" quarterback. One of the tallest quarterbacks in NFL history.
Have you seen the Browns starting quarterback's jersey? The one that's got like 1 million names on it?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
That's hilarious.
I can find this.
Oh, Kaiser was on the practice squad for the Titans last year.
Really?
And then he was behind Tannehill, and then he was released, and the Titans signed Matt Barkley, and he's back to being on the practice squad and then back off.
You see, am I able to share this? I feel like.
Poor guy had 11 touchdowns and 22 interceptions in his only year in Cleveland. And they got rid of him right after that. He got 1 year, his rookie year. 1 year, his rookie year, and they traded him to a place where he wasn't going to start for a long time.
I'm not seeing anything.
Nope. I see a box in that line.
Do you really? I don't see anything.
I see a box with a grayish outline.
I don't see anything. Oh, maybe I'll just send this to you in Discord. Copy image address. Oh, it's the same thing. I don't see anything on my end, but they're like. I want to share my whole screen. Share like one image. I can transfer files in the group. Share right there. Look at this. Look at this.
Oh my Lord.
All of these, you've got Couch to begin with, and then you go Detmer, Wynn, Peterson, Holcomb, Garcia, Josh McCown, Dilfer, Fry, Anderson, Dorsey, Quinn, Gradkowski, something like that, McCoy, Delhomme. Remember Jake Delhomme? Jake Delhomme?
Yep.
Yeah. You got Seneca Wallace, Brandon Whedon.
He lives down the street from me.
Lewis, really? Campbell down here.
Louisiana.
Get back up here. Hoyer, Manziel, Shaw, McCown, different McCown. Davis, Griffin III, Kessler, Kaiser, Hogan, Taylor, Mayfield. Since Couch. This is 22 years. That's terrible. How many quarterbacks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
29, not counting Couch. So 30 counting Couch.
Jeez, man. Like, I get if you get like for instance, if your starting quarterback gets hurt, right? Okay, he gets hurt. You put in another guy. But like, this is 30 quarterbacks. Like, what? That's insane to me.
Yeah. Let's see. Who's had the most starting quarterbacks since 2010? So since 1999, the Browns have had 25, and the Cowboys have had 19, and the Bears have had 18. Does that give you some hope? You have no sound. See your lips moving, I hear nothing. He added a screen and he disappeared.
Check.
Yep, gotcha.
Okay, that's weird. I have no idea what happened. But
Yeah,
anyway,
so Cowboys, Bears, Raiders, and Dolphins have all had 18 or 19.
jeez. Like, I feel like that's closer than what I thought any team would be. I figured the
Yeah,
most
it was close when I thought.
he was probably maybe 15 at the most. But it shows you how dysfunctional a team can be when you need a
So
new
since
quarterback
2010, this is
every
interesting.
year.
So this doesn't match what I just read. Oh no, sorry. This is since Tom Brady started his first game in New England.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm down for
Arizona
this.
20, Atlanta 9, Baltimore 14, Buffalo 18, Carolina 17, Chicago 23, Cincinnati 9, Cleveland 26, Dallas 17, Denver 19, Detroit 13, Green Bay 6, Houston 15, Indianapolis 10, Jacksonville 14, KC 13, LA San Diego 3, LA St. Louis 20, Miami 19, Minnesota 20, New Orleans 6, Giants 6, Jets 16, Oakland 20, Philadelphia 12, Pittsburgh 10, Seattle 7, San Francisco 16, Tampa 15, Tennessee 16, and Washington 20.
So what you have to do then is add all those numbers up and figure out these are all the guys that have played since Tom Brady started. Since Tom Brady decided I'm going to be the best that there is. Like all
And
these
New
other
England's
guys
only had
like
3. So New England and San Diego.
crazy,
So
man.
that tells you Rivers and Brady were 2 of the most consistent players.
Yeah, yep. And Rodgers, how long's Rodgers been playing?
Well, Rodgers, they've had 6 since then. So that would probably be a little bit of Brett Favre, a little bit of Rodgers, and then some injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, with Cincinnati, like, dude, Cincinnati's been crap. They've only had 9. So, see, maybe Cincinnati
Who's been in
has
Cincinnati?
Cincinnati has the secret sauce. You get somebody that sucks and you stick with them.
The Browns just
Dalton.
kept trading him. The Browns kept trading and redrafting.
The Bengals had Andy Dalton.
That's right. That's it. Yeah. Yep. Red Rider, BB gun.
Atlanta's had 9. I don't know how they've had 9. I guess Ryan's been hurt a few times.
Ryan's been hurt. Yeah.
New Orleans had 6. Almost all of those were before Breeze.
Right? Yeah.
Because since Breeze, you only had a couple while he was injured. And he was a pretty consistent guy. Giants, 6, which is pretty impressive. They went from Manning to.
But who was in there before Manning though? Or Manning was. When did Manning and Brady come in? It wasn't together. Manning was quite a few years after Brady, right? Manning was.
I think Manning's Eli's younger.
Yeah.
So
it would have probably been beforehand, and then since then they've had a couple. Because they had what's his face, who they were like, oh, it's like a younger, better looking Eli Manning, and then he was just bad.
Let's see. New York Giants quarterback history.
This guy, I know he's a Browns fan. He has despised of OBJ since OBJ got there. He's the most overrated player. The only reason that he's even famous is because of his lucky catch. He just leapt back like this and happened to catch the ball. And ever since then, he's been, he's nobody. But ever since then, he's been in the light. And I'm like, I don't think that's right. And then he, of course, goes on to win the Super Bowl this year. And on top of that, they were saying there was a bunch of people I know that said, well, if he was healthy for the whole game, he might have actually been the MVP of the game. And I was like, because I think it was Stafford all day, and it wasn't even Stafford, was it? Who was the one MVP? It was that the not the tight end, wide receiver. What's his name? Cup?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cup,
Cuff. No, cuff, cup,
cup. I think it's CUPP or KUPP.
It's K. I think it's K. But man, I don't know. Like I was like, no, I think OBJ's good. I think he wasn't helpful. And then it didn't help that his dad decided to tweet out a video. You know, like come on, just don't when your dad gets involved. Like I can't even say this because I was gonna say my dad doesn't come into my job and tell the boss what to do, but I actually work for my dad right now, so that's kind of not how
So
that
you'd be a
works.
lot.
Yeah. So yeah, so if my dad were to post a video of how bad of a job I do, then that'd be okay because he's my boss.
He's sharing your termination at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me
Somehow
tell
he'll
you-
call it good parenting. So I don't know.
Oh, and somehow as a millennial, you'll say you're abused and just traumatic.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then ask for more money, and when I don't get it, just quit, and then just off of my parents, which are also the people I've quit from. So who knows how
That
that'll
would be
go.
awkward. That would be awkward.
Mom, Dad, I lost my job. I quit my job today. Yes, we know, son. I'm gonna need some money for gas. Why don't you get a job? You guys hiring?
You know what? The last people I worked for refused to give me a letter reference.
Really?
No, I was gonna say with your parents.
Oh, I see what you see.
Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't get a job.
yeah. Well, like
You
we're
wouldn't
going
believe
on a
how miserable
vacation.
that place was.
Yeah, right. Like I've said stuff like that before too. Like we're going on vacation this summer sometime, and I was like, I'm gonna need those days off of work, I guess. And then it's kind of a weird thing because like you're really actually concerned because you have a job and you're like, I need those days off. And then you kind of look at your parents who you're going on vacation with, and you're like, get those days off, right? Like it's like this weird, like I don't even know. Like I know I get those days off, but at the same time, I'm like, I have to officially ask, right? Like it's just
Like,
weird.
how does this
It's,
work?
yeah,
I
they're
couldn't
like the
do it,
ones
man.
that are like,
Good for
"Hey, we're
you.
going on vacation as a family," and then I'm like, "Do I get to go or do I have to?" You know. So, and then the other part of that too is that like, there's like me and my dad, we both do like, for instance, we do the deposit at the end of the night, and there's only four of us that do the deposit right now. And so if like there's a week where both me and my dad aren't there, the other two have to do it all week long. And you kind of feel bad because it's like if one of us goes somewhere, both of us are usually going, you know? So it's like, and then also the one other guy that does it, he's retiring soon. So if he's retired and then me and my dad are gone, that's going to leave the one girl just to do it all herself the
Poor
entire
girl,
week.
she's a victim of nepotism.
Yeah.
So why didn't I work at a place where they said they don't hire family?
And then they hired a bunch of family. Their
It's just
family.
painful. Yeah, I, dude, good for you, man. I don't think I could. I don't think I could work with my parents. Oh, I know I couldn't.
I've got,
Quite painful.
man, I got great parents, and I know I'm blessed by that, and so it's one of those things where like I don't take advantage of it, but I also take a little bit of advantage of it because like they have a restaurant, right? And so like I could eat for free in there, so I'm gonna do that when I'm there, you know, like not like taking advantage of it as in like entitlement, but taking advantage of it as
The
I'm
benefit.
blessed.
Yeah.
So like, you know, yeah. And so it's one of those things. So like I don't order like the most expensive thing on the menu. I'm not there like when I order lunch and the restaurant's busy and I'm like, I'm hungry, guess what? I'm gonna wait till the restaurant's not busy because I care about the staff that's back there. You know what I mean? And like, I'm
Yeah.
not ordering something expensive. I'm ordering a cheeseburger, single cheeseburger. Most people are getting like the fries and a side and a drink, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna get just a cheeseburger. Throw it on just one of your small plates. Get to it when you have time, kind of thing. You know, like that's where I'm at with it. Like I take advantage of it because it's a blessing but I'm not entitled to it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
at least I try.
Yeah.
I try to be that way anyway. I don't know. Maybe I come off as entitled.
I'm sure somebody thinks you're entitled, but that's just life, right?
Yeah.
Like the perspective. You're working for your parents, so there's gonna be
Yeah.
somebody that feels that way.
Yeah.
I think
And I mean,
ultimately it's a taking for granted. We're taking for granted meets. I've earned or deserved this,
mhm,
right? So like I think that's some of the difficulty
I haven't
with
earned it.
situations like that is that people, you watch it with a lot of these, businesses, and we watch it a lot in leadership statistics and stuff where they give to their sons or their daughters, and typically the business fails miserably, and it's
Yeah.
because there's this huge sense of entitlement, and oh, things will just figure their way out, and they realize like, hey, my parents actually did work, and I put nothing in to figure out how to get here. Now I'm here.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. No.
sucks.
And yeah. You don't
It's
know
like Johnny
what they've
Manziel being your
done. Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah.
I didn't prepare for this moment, but I appreciate it. I'm here. Let's have some drinks and fail together. Like,
Dude, go real quick, back to football. The biggest letdown in the NFL has been Josh Gordon. Like
poor
that
guy.
whole story there, man. Like,
Him
yeah,
and
you feel
Justin
bad for
Blackman,
the guy. Yeah,
both
yeah.
first round picks that chose
Like,
weed over the NFL.
and like being a
But here's the
Browns
thing:
fan, I
should the
feel like I've
weed
had
even matter, man? It's weed, dude. Like at this point, half the states have legalized it. There's
yeah,
no performance enhancement from it.
yeah.
Like I'm opposed to anything that's against the law. So at the end of the day, like
If it's
it
against
is
the
what it is for
law,
me.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but if and he's legally acquired it, to my understanding, from medicinal,
yeah.
it's been prescribed to him. So if it's medicinal, he's legally got it. I don't think it's any of the NFL's business, man. They ain't cutting the guy who's addicted to pain pills.
Right, right. There's a lot of other stuff that's happening that they're.
And I'd
I
argue that pain
mean,
pills do enhance your performance because it gets you through the, you know,
yeah, I'm just saying if Deshaun Watson still has a job, like,
yeah.
I mean,
Ben Roethlisberger, three
yeah,
three
exactly,
claims, three assault claims, right?
exactly. Yep.
Kareem Hunt punts somebody.
Dude,
Um,
yeah,
Tyreek Hill beats somebody. Like there's some. I mean, you watch the Alvin Kamara video. I mean, and I'm not saying that all of them necessarily because each of them have their own stories, but
yep.
there's a lot of questionable. I mean, and even not to get too political, but even with Colin Kaepernick, right? Like this is
Mhm.
a guy that like didn't commit a crime.
And he's not playing
Yeah, and he's not
anywhere.
playing. But you got guys like Antonio Brown, like
Oh my
literally,
gosh.
literally sent a text message to a young lady and says, "Hey, I did blank to you
Oh,
last night." Like a minute
that
assault, and it's like no big deal, no big deal. We think
that
we can
guy
win a Super
what?
Bowl with him.
And then in that, I know that that's off the field, but even on the field, he decided to walk out on his team mid game, and somehow this guy, people still want him to play on their
No, he'll,
team.
he'll play. He'll play for somebody next year. Yeah,
I
he'll play.
know. And somebody said that when Deshaun Watson came to Cleveland, somebody was like, "Oh yeah, Antonio Brown wants to play on the Browns now." And I'm like, "No, you just dealt with this with toxic people on your team last season. Like that's called sabotage."
Hey, but the
So,
Bucks won with that toxic guy, so they're like, hey,
yeah, but he was playing with Tom Brady, and I feel like Tom Brady would be a guy that would be able to reel him in a little bit, even a little bit, because
not
the
enough to
guy
keep
he's
him
got
from
this
walking
edge.
off the field.
And I know, I know.
Like,
Oh
yeah, this is a
man.
guy that kept Randy Moss in check, but he couldn't keep it. Like the dude's busted when he outdoes Randy Moss.
Yeah, yeah. Randy Moss. I enjoyed watching him play.
Yeah, probably one of the most enjoyable receivers outside of slot guys.
Yeah.
Patriots have had a lot of fun receivers to watch.
Yeah, and I think because Tom Brady threw to him.
Or yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Tom Brady's a top quarterback, but
Really?
yeah, I think he's the best player to ever play in the NFL, and I think it's because of his intelligence. But athletically, and just
Oh,
like
athletically, he's
like
yeah.
like he's so
What?
far behind Drew Brees. Like Drew Brees'
It's
accuracy, Drew Brees' velocity, like all of that, like not even
Yeah.
close.
It's fun to watch Tom Brady run. And if it's fun to watch a guy run, you know he's not that athletic. Him and Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger, watching Ben run, he
Oh
was so
no,
tall.
Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was awkward.
Yeah,
Like
that's
he
true.
he had the peck and he had such a long neck and a giant forehead that it was just weird.
But he could run at least.
He looked like
I
an
feel like
ostrich.
Tom Brady can't run. I'm looking up Tom Brady running real quick. Not Tom Brady, Peyton Manning running. He looks like a natural runner. Tom Brady does not. Tom Brady does not. Hold on. Let's see. Tom Brady running. Oh, that's not. Best of Tom Brady running. There you go. That's what we want to see.
Tom
Worse
Brady
than
ran a
Peyton
40
Manning.
in 5.28 seconds.
There's one where there's a video here where he gets hit and his helmet comes off. And I'm like, that's not what he ever wanted to feel again. And that's why he decided, I'm never running again. Ever.
I'm not doing this.
Man. I'm just, yeah.
Let's see.
Oh,
So,
they're showing this block that he had once. It wasn't even a block. So there's this video where Tom Brady looks like he's trying to block somebody and then just kind of doesn't touch anybody.
oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. That happened like a couple years. That was just a couple years ago, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't
Like a
that's not
big
that
time
old.
game or something. Yeah.
Nope.
Anyway, man, it is almost 12:30, so I'm gonna get out of here.
Awesome, sounds good. I'm gonna run to Raising Cane's and get some dinner.
Are you really?
Yeah, I was.
What time is it?
Rush. I was like, man, I'm gonna make it for 8 o'clock my time, 9 o'clock your time. Like, so I was like running behind, so I didn't get to. So it is 11:30, and they close at
Okay.
midnight. So
There you
I'm gonna
go.
over there, swing by and grab some Raising Cane's.
Dude, okay, real quick, we'll talk about Raising Cane's. The chicken was good. The chicken was very good. I feel like when I eat Chick-fil-A chicken, it seems like it has less of the garbage in it, and Raising Cane's feels like it has like some of it in it. I'm not saying it's like packed with it or anything,
Fair enough. Yeah.
but it feels like it's a fast food chicken. Whereas Chick-fil-A, while it still is, it doesn't feel like as much of a fast food chicken. That's what I feel like. But the chicken that I had from Raising Cane's was excellent. That sauce you dip it in, whatever that was, some ketchup,
Yes.
something or other, fantastic. I loved it. The fries, for some whatever reason, were cold, even though the place was packed. They actually had police. It had police. The place. It's a new Raising Cane's. The police were outside directing traffic. That's how many people were there. The inside was
Maybe
packed.
that's why, because it was so busy that they made your fries, and by the time they got to your chicken, the fries had been
Okay.
sitting there for a few minutes.
Okay. I
bet
wondered
you
if it was something like that.
just
Yeah.
packed.
They're crinkle cut fries, and I love crinkle cut fries. So
Dude,
I mean, I
they'll
still ate
only
them
get
anyway.
better.
Okay.
Take
I'll do that.
your Texas toast, get an extra Texas toast, put some fries, drizzle some of that cane sauce on it,
Yeah.
put the chicken strips on it, and eat it as a sandwich.
Yeah. Dude, I didn't even think of that. So
Delicious.
the coleslaw, this is what I'll tell you. The coleslaw was good. But it wasn't anything that was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of coleslaw.
But it's still good, and that's something that I would be able to eat and have no problem eating.
Yeah.
The Texas toast, to me, it was Texas toast. It wasn't anything special.
I
Like,
see, Texas toast is one of my favorite parts.
so
Like
when
now, I'm gonna get 2 extra cane sauces and extra Texas toast, and that's gonna be a night.
How many fingers are you getting? Chicken fingers?
I'm gonna get 4. I usually get 6.
You're only getting 4, but
I'm gonna get 4 because I need to go to bed soon.
So are you telling me you're gonna get 4 chicken strips and 4 little things of sauce?
Yes.
Because you're gonna use the sauce on everything else.
Yes.
Okay, that's fair.
The fries, the
That's
Texas
fair.
toast, everything.
Yeah.
And they actually sell a 20-ounce. If I was getting a 6, they sell a 20-ounce container of cane sauce. Dude, so quick story, and then we'll hop off. So, we opened a store a couple months ago in December, and right next to it is a Chipotle. I did that maybe 15, 20 times. I was tired of it. I have
Yeah,
had
yeah.
weeks, I have had months where I've had 23, 25 nights out of 30 of Raising Cane's. Never been tired of it. Like
That's awesome.
I've eaten Raising Cane's and In-N-Out are two things I probably could eat every single night for 30 days and be
Wow.
okay.
Wow.
And probably Taco Bell. Taco Bell I could do too.
Yeah, see, a lot of people disagree with me on Taco Bell about like they're like, yeah, it's good, but I can't eat it all the time. I'm like, bro, I can eat that breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
even you know what? Even Wendy's. Like Wendy's. I haven't had Wendy's breakfast in a while. Wendy's breakfast used to
Never
be
had their
incredible.
breakfast.
They used to do these paninis that just rocked, and then they changed it, and they've changed it a dozen times since then. But they usually have a pretty good breakfast. But even Taco Bell's is pretty good.
I
Taco Bell's breakfast.
gotta retry Taco Bell's breakfast because I'll tell you, this is what happened to me. It was when I was on dialysis for 3 years, and when you're on dialysis, your water, your body just builds up with water, and like to the point where you're like chubby, and your fingers you can't even bend them all the way, like crazy. So when you eat salt, a lot of salt and sodium just retains even more water. There is a lot in fast food. So I didn't eat very much fast food for those 3 years. One of those things I did not eat was Taco Bell breakfast. And I tried it one time. It was okay. The eggs were cold and I was frustrated. Like, this is the one time I'm just trying to eat this stuff because I'm just going to enjoy my meal. And I'm like, okay. And I tried it once. It was okay. And I never went back to it just because of between the sodium and it was cold. And I'm like, whatever. And I need to try it again because I hear it's amazing. I've always heard it's amazing, but I've yet to try it again. So I need to try it again. All their other food's great. I hear they're bringing the pizza back.
Dude, what? Panera's pizza. Panera has the best flatbread. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. I just had it was like a turkey sandwich of theirs the other day. Panera turkey sandwich something.
Next time you go get the chicken ranch pizza flatbread.
Ranch pizza.
It is delicious.
Chicken bacon ranch? Chicken bacon ranch?
I think so.
Is the biggest chicken bacon ranch is the biggest thing in pizza for the Amish, which is weird.
I actually don't think I've ever had a chicken bacon ranch. I don't really like chicken on a pizza, personally.
But when there's ranch, when it's ranch and bacon added on to that crust, bro, that's a different story.
Bacon and pineapple.
Yes, I'll do that. Put pineapple.
Bacon and pineapple pizza.
Put it on a chicken bacon ranch. Put pineapple on a chicken. But would pineapple with ranch taste good?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Put pineapple on a chicken bacon ranch.
There you go. We're solving the world's problems.
One day at a time, baby. One podcast at a time. Solving the world's problems.
There you go.
Know it.
All right, bro. All right, man. You have an awesome night, man, and I will talk to you later.
Talk to you later, bro.
All right.
See ya. Love you. Cool. Hope you guys have had a great, fantastic night.